The high of 87 degrees. Partly cloudy skies expected to continue overnight with a low of 67 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Radio Show, Dominic. Welcome to Madison. Almost forgot to turn your mic on.
I'd feel a little more welcome if you turn the mic on. Crudy, great to be here. Fancy Brian as well. Our fair audience. Good to be with everyone. What a beautiful day today.
Oh, it's glorious. I'd remember that. The logistics of just starting the radio show. If you were here by my side more often.
It's good to be with you, as always, Michael.
Well, I'm sure it is.
It sure is.
To be here with me.
Oh man, but there's a lot going on today, dude, and I have some opinions about some things that we're gonna share today.
Yeah,
yep.
You got many thoughts.
I have many important thoughts that we're gonna get to.
We're gonna have a big show, or at least we hope to. We got fine guests coming in the 3:00 hour. Former U.S. Attorney James Santelle.
Oh, he's got some splaining to do.
Our legal eagle. We'll talk about what? Why is Merrick Garland defending
the
Donald
Biden
Trump?
DOJ? Yes, many things to discuss with Jim.
But Dominic, there was a report that came out of his GAC committee in part.
Yes,
a Senate report on what happened in the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Little fiasco.
A goings on.
I would call this a sanitized version.
Bipartisan.
There was some negotiation of language, apparently, Dom. We're going to share some of the reporting from the Washington Post, or maybe some of the editorializing.
More so, yes.
Encapsulate the reporting of this news as well. Let's just jump into it, Dom. I always like to put off the reading and louding, but it's important. Greg Sargent at the Post. A damning Senate report on January 6th shows what Republicans want to keep buried.
See, that's really what this report is telling us.
Well, you don't think I got lime in my trunk, Dom? Trunk?
You got lime in your trunk? Not the first time I had
and
to bury
shovel.
your body.
Not the first time. Sargent writes, it's sometimes said that history is written by the victors, but if Republicans get their way, the history of the January 6th insurrection will be written largely by the perpetrators and the enablers. That's the takeaway from the major new Senate report on security lapses at the Capitol that was released Tuesday. While the report is well executed on that topic, it is also notable for what it does not cover. It does not officially describe the attack as insurrection. It seems like sort of a omission of fact. What do you call it then? I'll read on. Instead, opting for the word attack, and it avoids a frank discussion of the role played by one Donald J. Trump. In short, the only history of the insurrection that Republicans will acknowledge is one that carefully sanitizes the role in inciting the mob played by the then president and by Republicans themselves. What's more, the only permissible history for them is one that buries another profoundly consequential truth, that Trump fully intended to disrupt the election's conclusion by inciting a mob attack on the duly elected lawmakers. Republicans refuse to reckon with this event as an act of mass political violence, one in which they are deeply implicated or targeted, depending on your point of view now.
Right.
What the report avoided The scope and descriptions in the report, which bears the names of Republican and Democratic leaders of the Senate, Homeland Security, and Rules Committees, had to undergo extensive discussions to get GOP buy-in. A Democratic aide on one of the committees said, to get bipartisan agreement, the language had to be carefully negotiated.
Not an insurrection, an attack.
Why do you have to negotiate the truth to get, well, we talked about that, bipartisan buy-in. The result was that the report minimized the importance of key topics. Among these were the extent of Trump's lies about the illegitimacy of the election in the run-up to the attack, and the degree to which Trump-supporting rioters were driven by the express goal of subverting the outcome. The aide tells me, Don, why don't you pick up? It's a lot of words.
Not an insurrection, nor mentioning the express goal of subverting the outcome. I'll read on from Greg Sargent. For instance, in the section entitled Events of January 6th, what a nice title. They probably negotiated that one too, Crudy.
Events.
The
Schedule.
Schedule. The report carefully notes that after the network called the outcome, Trump continued to assert that the election was stolen from him without noting explicitly that this was false, or that he'd told this lie relentlessly in previous days to whip up supporters to descend on the Capitol. It left that part out, Crudy. The report also notes that in his remarks inciting the mob that day, Trump's statements focused on the electoral count in Congress and carefully recounts that he encouraged his supporters to go to the Capitol. What? He was just an encouraging type.
Not only did he encourage them, he told them he was going to march with them.
He lied.
Down Pennsylvania Avenue, right?
Quote unquote. Encouraged his supporters to go to the Capitol. Nice report. Good negotiation on the terms there, folks. Sargent continues, but the report doesn't state outright that Trump repeatedly urged the mob to help subvert that count, or that he expressly directed the mob's anger toward then Vice President Mike Pence, while again calling on Pence to carry out that subversion.
Hang Mike Pence.
Hang Mike Pence. You know, a festive crowd.
Hang with Mike Pence.
Hang out with Mike Pence.
Oh, something like
comma. Similarly, CNN reports that negotiators carefully avoided using the word insurrection for the same reasons. To the degree the report does shed light on the depths of Trump's lying and the rioters' motives, it mostly transmits this via quotes and transcripts from key intelligence and law enforcement officials rather than taking an official stand on them. To be clear, there are understandable reasons for Democrats to undergo such negotiations to get Republican buy-in. The most important aspect of this report is its documentation of security failures and recommendations to law enforcement, which we want Republicans to endorse. On that front, the report documents that the Capitol Police had more information indicating mobilization for a violent attack than previously known, and that extensive communication breakdowns prevented that information from being acted upon. It documents numerous glaring failures of other kinds. The report does offer new detail on the insurrectionary nature of the assault. It documents how intelligence officials collected information indicating that some attackers fully intended to terrorize lawmakers and saw themselves as a strike force overturning the election on Trump's behalf.
Strike force.
But the report doesn't meaningfully explore the deeper significance of the fact that this was not just a physical attack. It was an effort to subvert democracy through intimidation and violence at the express behest of the President of the United States, Crudy, who retains extensive GOP backing.
Does he now? Nor does the report discuss the extent to which Republican lawmakers fed Trump's lies about the election for many weeks. They continue to do so, or the role of this in inciting the rioters, or the degree to which some GOP lawmakers themselves prompted the January 6th event. They prompted it. Obviously, this is in part due to the understandable decision to limit the scope of the report to security matters. But this is precisely the point. The limited scope is the only one that Republicans will allow. That's all they want out there, Dom. I continue. Remember when Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell opposed a bipartisan January 6th commission? He declared that the existing investigations, such as this one, were sufficient. This narrow focus on security is what Republicans want. To be fair, the Biden administration deserves some blame. Senator Gary Peters, the chair of the Homeland Security Committee, says he's disappointed with the failure of some agencies to fully cooperate with this probe.
Disappointed. I was disappointed the Bucks lost last night.
Didn't watch.
But you're disappointed that agencies didn't cooperate in a security probe?
In the end, though, this Senate report shows how powerful a fuller January 6th accounting could be. It could document in similarly compelling detail the role of Trump's lies in inciting the insurrection and the conversations Trump might have had with other lawmakers during the attack, demonstrating his true intentions. More broadly, a full accounting would inevitably shed light on the growing number of Republicans who have openly renounced any obligation to accept election losses as legitimate, and the overlap of that with the ongoing right-wing extremist embrace of naked political violence, all of which, of course, constitutes exactly the accounting Republicans don't want to see happen, writes Greg Sargent.
At the Washington Post. I mean, it's bipartisan. That's good, I guess. But I think all this really, to me, says is we need a further investigation. I mean, you cannot, if you're going to get to the bottom of something,
can't dig in.
You can't, not in something like this. You can't get buy-in.
We looked towards the bottom. We didn't necessarily, descend to the bottom. It's like looking off the Grand Canyon without actually climbing down to the bottom.
Looks pretty deep down there.
It did.
Looks like if we went down there, we might get hurt.
That's why we don't want to get to the bottom, because Republicans, the facts could hurt them.
Yes, entirely. And if that's the case, then the facts are what the facts are.
What if they incriminate them?
I'm sure that perhaps there would be some facts that might incriminate some of these Republicans.
Don't Republicans have the right to, not self-incriminate?
Yes, they do. They can stand up and claim that right.
That's why you can't call it an insurrection. Sort of a bad party.
An event. An event.
Didn't come off as intended.
A program. A bunch of patriots encouraging their elected officials. What
I don't even know what
they're
you
expressing
call
their political views.
Dominic, we've never thrown a bad party. I can't tell you what you call when a party goes absolutely bad. Oh,
did it go bad? Or I think they were pretty happy about it.
Who is that?
The Patriots.
The Patriots? Come on, Dom. Trump ain't the president. Not until he's reinstalled.
In August.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Happy Tuesday to us all. 844-967-2789. Phone lines open for you.
If I were to guess, I have one name in mind.
Sedition! I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
She was 27 years old. She took the gun that my grandfather had given her for self-defense. She never got to see her son grow up to be anything. Because she had easy access to a gun, I've been robbed of that relationship.
63 Americans a day die by gun suicide. With safe gun storage, we can give our loved ones a second chance at life. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Today's singing can help you remember things, so here's some tips for parents out there during these tough times.
Number 1, make sure your kids wash their hands for 20 seconds after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside. 2, virtual play dates. Social and physical distancing can help save lives. 3, tell them they're safe and show your love and pride. Yes, we'll get through this together.
Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Wisconsin Republicans have put forth a legislative proposal.
Oh, they're going to take the Medicaid money for like $2 billion?
No, not that one.
Oh.
That one's highly popular.
Oh, they're getting behind voting rights. That's awesome.
No, they've perhaps gotten differing advocacy on voting.
They finally come around on some gun safety legislation.
No, thoughts and prayers. That's our plan.
Well, then what have they been doing then?
Legalize marijuana. No.
Oh,
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
Bullshit, nothing like it.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin uprising. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I think we should correct the record. You got it wrong.
In what regard?
Trump apparently didn't have his pants on backwards.
I never said he did. I believe that was you, Michael.
Well, that was the reporting of others and the interwebs, but now we know the truth.
Oh, what is it?
Snopes says.
Oh, yeah?
It was a low-res photo, and they had other photos where you could see the fly was in the front in a better resolution photo.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
So Trump apparently got his pants on right. Although those were the most crumpled. You know, the last time I saw someone wearing a crumpled suit like that bad. Glenn Grothman getting off the plane from D.C. when Trump wouldn't allow him to fly in on Air Force One, and he had to fly commercial.
As the resident fat here, I do have to say I'm very warm all the time, and I look like that when I get off, when I wear suits and I'm sitting or moving and all, because I generate my own heat. I'm basically a walking steam cleaner. So if anything is there, it's going to be full. If I stay straight up, it's completely perfect. No wrinkles. But if I sit at all, yeah.
Trump doesn't even have to wear pants. He has no job. I mean, the guy can walk around sans pants all day long. All you got to do is put him in some iron pants and walk his ass out on stage. It's the first time he's been in public in months.
It's a very low bar when you're celebrating, but I really had my pants on straight.
Yay! Those were some crumpled pants.
Fake news. Yeah, yes, they were. Trump's pants were wrinkled. Yes.
I mean, I realize we're wearing shorts and t-shirts here, but you know, we're not the former president about to give a speech before the GOP convention.
You mean the former twice impeached one-term president who lost the House, lost the Congress, lost the White House in front of what's left of the remnants of his cult party that he had to do because he was afraid that if he set up his own party that no one would show up? That loser? That's who you're talking about? We should hold him in some high regard?
Well, in his defense, and literally I do mean in his defense, the Biden DOJ is taking up the case of Donald Trump, private citizen pre-presidency, and the rape allegation that turned into a civil defamation suit. Right? Trump sued for defamation. E. Jean Carroll said,
yes,
he raped me. Trump said that never happened.
I don't even know her.
And the Biden Justice Department is apparently not taking up that part of the legal argument, but is continuing to defend the Trump presidency because he was acting as an official figure. Apparently, the Garland DOJ is saying when Trump said, no, I didn't rape her, lied about it. Apparently, if you're lying on behalf of your campaign, Dom, that's protected free speech.
Which, of course, is asinine. And we'll get to our guest at 3 o'clock, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney on this issue. He used to work at the DOJ. Maybe he's got some insight. But what? So if that's the case, then a president can lie about anything all the time, about anything he did prior to becoming the president of the United States, regardless of his defamation or not.
Well, as a public figure, does one have to defend oneself in such fashion?
There are consequences to actions. Yes,
you're an alleged rapist, and the victims accusing you, and you say no, you're lying. You and those 20 other women, you're all lying.
All of them, yes, they're all lying.
And give me some Tic Tacs, and let's go furniture shopping.
I've seen some musings that perhaps this is some procedural kind of filing, but
bad choice.
I'm not clear.
Merrick Garland, you're never going to get quoted on this program. You're never going to play your sound. Not with.
When is it going to be Merrick Garland Day?
It's not going to be, not with decisions like this to continue to uphold the ridiculous legal defense of Donald Trump, private citizen, for statements made when he was Donald Trump president, being defended by the Biden DOJ. Yeah, it all makes a lot of sense to me too.
Yeah, not really.
You know, so Dominic, this sanitized version, this January 6th report came out. And let's not forget, Donald Trump was impeached over this, right? He was impeached over
the second time. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, impeachment number 2. You got to clarify. Yeah, you do.
Because when we come back, Dom, in the very next segment, we've got tapes. There's tapes of Rudy Giuliani talking to the Ukrainians, effectively pushing the quid pro quo that was the very rationale for Trump impeachment number 1.
Oh, great. So we have some distinctions now. We have, news items today reminding us of the
you're going to have to keep score.
2 different impeachments. So Rudy's sound coming in the next segment. And we just talked about this insurrection, right? The second impeachment. But doesn't this now just really give us, do you feel more of a need now that we need to maybe bring this back up in Congress again? I mean, what do you think should be done now? We can't just let this go. This is not, if this is what Mitch McConnell was talking about, well, we have these other investigations going on. If this is it's wholly insufficient.
Well, there'll be lots of prosecutions as well. Perhaps prosecutions of Republican lawmakers, maybe
would
the
they
former president.
Do you think the Republicans would be
and
so
civil
eager to not go into motive if it were a bunch of Muslims attacking the
Black
Capitol,
Lives Matter,
or Black Lives Matter is attacking the Capitol?
Oh, right? They would have.
Then they would certainly come up. Well, they hate this country, and there'd be all sorts of issues. Why this group of people or that group of people are attacking the Capitol? But in this case, when it's all white Trump supporters and white nationalists and insurrectionist bastards, it's not an insurrection. It's an attack, and it's an event of January 6th.
Well, Dominic, I suspect if it had been Black Lives Matter protesters, Trump would have been bunkered down below the White House like he was the first time they came to town. And above and beyond that, if that had been 100,000 black men marching on the Capitol, it would have been a bloodbath. The Capitol Police would have opened fire.
Oh, they'd have found their weapons then?
I think so.
Huh.
I think so. They would have overcome their reluctance to have a bad scene.
The bad communication breakdown that may not have happened.
Well, we've been talking about it. The January 6th, don't call it an insurrection, sort of a rebellious act of some patriots. But we'll come back. We'll talk about Rudy Giuliani and the quid pro quo caught on tape, released by CNN. The rationale for impeachment 1. He was guilty both times. Come back. More Devils.
Talk radio made for the 99% on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
My name is Rocker, and this is my vodka. Rocker Vodka is distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Find Rocker Vodka at Woodman's, Festival Foods, Trixie's Liquor, Star Liquor, Steve's Liquor, Willie Street Co-op, Total Wine, Vic Pierce, Miller's Market, Cambridge Cooler. Find more at rockervodka.com. It's yummy. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
At Chad's Design Build, our tagline is building a better world, one remodeled home at a time. Simply stated, we want to be a part of the solution to leave the world better than we found it. That's why we've invested in a 20 kilowatt solar array, which provides over 90% of our electrical demand at our shop, office, and design studio. And that's why we invest in local causes which provide opportunities and which confront structural inequality. At Chad's Design Build, we are proud to partner with you, building a better world, one remodeled home.
I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. The CEO of the Colonial Pipeline, Joseph Blount, told the Senate committee authorizing a multi-million-dollar payment to hackers was the right thing to do.
I made the decision to pay, and I made the decision to keep the information about the payment as confidential as possible. It was the hardest decision I've made in my 39 years in the energy industry, and I know how critical our pipeline is to the country, and I put the interests of the country first.
Blount said he made the decision to pay, given the company's crucial role in fuel transport and the potential for pandemonium arising from a prolonged shutdown of the pipeline. A man in Southern California, Marcus Anthony Ariz, is charged with murder in a road rage shooting that killed a 6-year-old boy on a local freeway last month. Police say they believe Ariz's girlfriend was driving, and he fired the shot that killed the boy while his mother was driving him to kindergarten in Orange County near Los Angeles. I'm Ed Donahue.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Sponsored by Age of Learning.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, June 8th. For the 2021-2022 school year, the Madison School District will offer online learning for up to 250 students grades 6 through 12 through the Madison Promise Academy. The new online academy is a part of the school district's attempt to do things differently in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, which upended so many of the traditional models of public education. Superintendent Carlton Jenkins said the district learned during the pandemic some students were very successful with virtual learning. On Monday, Marquette University announced it will require all students to be vaccinated against COVID-19 by August 1st in order to attend classes on campus this fall. Marquette is the third and largest private university in the state to take this step. Interim UW System President Tommy Thompson continues to indicate such a requirement will not be implemented for UW schools. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Tuesday to us all. Dominic, Lordy, there's tapes.
There's always tapes, man.
Don't these Republicans, don't these Trumpists know not to get taped, not to have these conversations on open phone lines?
Maybe they're just so brazen they just don't give a damn.
Well, they were using some encrypted stuff as well. There's an article and a story about that, but here is the breaking news, the exclusive. CNN had it. Never before heard audio obtained exclusively by CNN shows how former President Donald Trump's longtime advisor, Rudy Giuliani, relentlessly pressured and coaxed the Ukrainian government, bear with me, the Ukrainian government in 2019 to investigate baseless conspiracies about then candidate Joe Biden. The audio is of a July 2019 phone call between Giuliani, U.S. diplomat Kurt Volker, and Andrei Yermak, a senior advisor to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. You remember Zelensky, Don, from the first impeachment? The call was a precursor to Trump's infamous call with Zelensky. No, it was a perfect phone call.
Yeah, perfect. Everybody knows it.
And both conversations later became a central part of Trump's first impeachment, where he was accused of soliciting Ukrainian help for his campaign. During the roughly 40-minute phone call, we're not going to drop it all here, Giuliani repeatedly told Yermak that Zelensky should publicly announce investigations into possible corruption by Biden in Ukraine and into claims that Ukraine meddled in the 2016 election to hurt Trump. These separate claims are both untrue, according to CNN, Dom. Here's a quick quote, and we might have this sound. All we need from President Zelensky is to say, I'm going to put an honest prosecutor in charge. He's going to investigate and dig up the evidence that presently exists. And is there any other evidence about involvement in the 2016 election, and that then the Biden thing has to be run out? Giuliani said, according to the audio, somebody in Ukraine's got to take that seriously.
Ooh,
Do you
Rudy.
take it seriously, buddy?
If you stop calling me Rudy and I do it, the new audio demonstrates how Giuliani aggressively cajoled the Ukrainians to do Trump's bidding. It undermines Trump's oft-repeated assertion that there was no quid pro quo, where Zelensky could secure U.S. government support if he did political favors for Trump. The call was one of the opening salvos in the years-long quest by Trump and his allies to damage Biden and subvert the 2020 election process. Really, this is, what we're talking about now in this report that came out from his guy, because it's just a continuation of the same mentality.
The big lie?
Yeah, I mean, this is all the same. Going back to this. But I continue from CNN's piece. Years-long quest by Trump and his allies to damage Biden and subvert the 2020 election process by soliciting foreign meddling, lying about voter fraud, attempting to overturn the results, and inciting the deadly January 6th assault on the Capitol. There's an ongoing criminal investigation into Giuliani and his Ukraine dealings, including whether he violated lobbying laws while coordinating with ex-officials who gave him dirt on the Bidens. The federal inquiry ramped up when the FBI raided Giuliani's home and office in late April. We've talked about that. It's unclear if the call with Yermak is part of the investigation. Giuliani denies all wrongdoing.
Of course he does.
Nothing. A partial transcript was first published by BuzzFeed, and Time magazine was the first to publish key excerpts of the call in February. Over and over, Giuliani pressed for the investigations, according to the audio recording. Giuliani even said the U.S.-Ukraine diplomatic relationship would improve if Zelensky launched the probes. Giuliani and Volker suggested during the call that a public announcement could clear the way for Zelensky's much-desired visit to the U.S., or for in-person meetings with Giuliani. I mean,
really wanted to come to the White House, didn't he?
He sure did. But, I'll take an in-person with Giuliani instead. We can meet behind the strip mall. That would clear the air really well, Giuliani said, according to the recording. And I think it would make it possible for me to come and make it possible, I think, for me to talk to the president to see what I can do about making sure whatever misunderstandings are put aside. I kind of think that this could be a good thing for having a much better relationship, Rudy. A much better relationship. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
We could, put some of these misunderstandings aside. Just, tell the world you're going to get an honest prosecutor. Look into a couple of things, slide the Biden in there, and all is forgiven.
A little more from CNN. The call was a big moment for Giuliani's quest to damage Biden's candidacy. The former New York City mayor had spent months meeting with Ukrainians to find dirt on the Biden family and to corroborate right-wing conspiracies that anti-Trump forces in Ukraine undermined the 2016 campaign. That was the Russians, right? Giuliani met with officials who weren't considered trustworthy by U.S. diplomats in Ukraine, including Volker, but they told Giuliani what he wanted to hear. Zelensky, who was a comedian and an actor before entering politics, was sworn in as Ukraine's president in May of 2019. Giuliani sounded eager to connect with the new president and his team. Several weeks later, Volker brokered a deal between Giuliani and Yermak, who is a longtime friend and advisor to Zelensky. This was Giuliani's first opportunity to make his pitch about the Biden investigation to Zelensky's inner circle, which was desperate to get to know Trump's team and to firm up U.S. military support for Ukraine's ongoing war against Russian proxies in the East. So now we've got some sound, right? Let's play some of the sound. Don, why don't you call the shots? Here's Rudy Giuliani. Lordy, there's tapes.
Oh, there are tapes. Fancy Brian, thank you for all of your hard work today. Let's start cut number one, an introduction to the parties.
It's not playing.
It's not working.
Okay. So I'm going to jump back into this piece. Giuliani pushed many of these theories even after Volker had warned him that the Ukrainian officials who were feeding him information were not trustworthy and said that corruption claims against Biden were simply not credible, according to Volker's testimony, to the House impeachment inquiry. I think we've got the sound. Let's play it for the people. Fancy Brian, let's get started.
Okay, so we should have on the line here America's mayor, Mayor Giuliani, and we have Andre Yermak.
America's mayor? Really? That's how you introduce yourself to foreign diplomats? I mean, by your stage name? I mean, is this what we do now? Hi, I'm the Devil's Advocates. Let's hear more.
Hi, Devil's Advocate.
Cut number 2, please.
Way back in last November, I got information from a reliable investigator, international investigator, that there was a certain amount of activity in Ukraine during the 2016 election that involved Ukrainian officials and Ukrainian citizens, mostly officials, being asked by our embassy and possibly by other American officials. Basically, I mean, the statement was to produce dirt on then candidate Trump and Paul Manafort.
Where's the dirt? Well, we'll move on. I'm following this as the.
I have some comments on that as well, but yeah, let's get more of the Giuliani sound out. Cut number 3, asking to investigate. Of course, let's not forget Hunter Biden.
And all we need from the president is to say, I'm going to put an honest prosecutor in charge. He's going to investigate and dig up the evidence that presently exists, and is there any other evidence about involvement of the 2016 election? And then the Biden thing has to be run out. I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, I see him bragging about it on television. And to me as a lawyer, it sounds like a bribe. Somebody in Ukraine's got to take that seriously.
A bribe, Giuliani went on to say, is offering something of value in exchange for official action. Kind of like I'm doing right now. So he offered Poroshenko, that was obviously Zelensky's predecessor, a $1.2 billion loan guarantee critical to Poroshenko's success as president in exchange for getting rid of the prosecutor general. That guy was corrupt, was he not? That's what Joe Biden is accused of. And Joe Biden publicly bragged about doing so.
As an act of U.S. diplomacy, this was some of the pressure
that was
brought to
agreed
bear
by many of the countries of the world.
Yes, the European Union and so forth. Yeah, that was the case, and that was the plan going forward as an act of the United States, yes.
Hell, some even said that Ron Johnson signed a letter of support for that action, right, Dom?
That's true, Michael.
Although when you questioned Senator Ron Johnson about that very signature and that very letter, his memory got very, very gray.
I don't know, Crudy, but I'm suspicious. Let's hear laying out the quid pro quo deal, as Crudy mentioned. Is that cut number 4, I believe?
So if he could make some statement at the right time that he supports a fair, honest law enforcement system and that these investigations go wherever they have to go, it's going to be run by honest people, that would clear the air really well. And I think it would make it possible for me to come and make it possible, I think, for me to talk to the president and see what I can do about making sure that whatever misunderstandings are put aside. And maybe even, I kind of think that this could be a good thing for having a much better relationship where we really understand each other.
Dominic, you hear that writing, that scribbling. A, I wonder what's being written down. And B, that's what you sound like often when you're fidgeting.
I'm always writing. Crudy, tell me if I'm wrong, but if there's an if this, then that kind of seems like a
this for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't speak Latin though. So, but like if I
for a pro quo,
and then that,
squid pro quo.
Like if I had $200 in this hand, Something like that.
And he gave it to me if I did something for you.
Just a couple more from the Quid Pro Quo or Giuliani. Lordy, there's tapes cut number 5.
I'm sure that Zelensky will say that. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Second, that would believe me, Andre, that would be good for all of us.
So Zelensky needs to announce that there will be investigations of Joe Biden. Doesn't have to predict the future convictions. Just, see where they go.
Yeah,
just smear a little dirt.
We have a new, a trustworthy prosecutor, air quotes, who's going to, do an investigation because Rudy Giuliani's got a guy who heard something about the Bidens, and I don't know if it's true, and an act that the vice president talked about as a official act of the United States government in the loan guarantees prior. That's certainly not what he's talking about, because that. But
you realize there's also you've got Hillary's server mixed in there. That's the other topic he's talking about. The second claim that's not founded in fact. He's looking for Hillary's emails.
He's always still looking for the servers in Ukraine, right?
Because that was the conspiracy being advanced. Is it wasn't the Russians, it was the Ukrainians.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And now he's talking to the Ukrainians, and he, just remember, all mixed up in there is Hillary's emails.
Aren't Hillary's emails mixed up in everything?
That or Benghazi.
Giuliani, cut number 6, please.
Can't do it.
Oh, we're out of time.
Oh, you
Too much jawboning. Sorry about that, Brian. Too much jawboning. We'll come back with cut number 6, Giuliani, the Quid Pro Quo edition. I'll give you this, and you give me that, and, maybe we'll just forgive all the misunderstandings. Capiche? All right, we understand each other. One hand washes the other. I'm glad we both wash to the face.
I'm glad we got a Sicilian on the pin. You're making it clear. You're edifying me, if you will.
These are beautiful windows you got here, Crudy. I'd hate to see them broken, but if you pay me insurance, I guarantee that if they are broken, I will repair them for free and find the perpetrator who does it.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates.
There was no quid pro quo. Yes.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates, inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever. Senator Ron Johnson talking about staying out of bars. How does that pair with your thought that schools should reopen in the fall? You got a room full of school students or a room full of bar patrons. What's the difference?
Because schools, students, it's rare, very rare to have them have a very serious medical effect from COVID.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
You shouldn't have older school teachers or school teachers with some of the comorbidities.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looks so good.
And we are back Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It is time for the coveted D-Bag of the Day Awards, Rudy. And we have a plethora today to choose from. I think maybe I'll go first. You okay with it?
Please do.
Okay. From the Raw story, Marjorie Taylor Greene back on my list. I don't believe in evolution. I believe in God. Brian, do we have some of the sound? Let's start with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We did all the hard work. Brian, play her first cut, please.
Dr. Anthony Fauci needs to get a lawyer because he is liable. I believe he's liable, criminally liable for what has happened with COVID-19. That's why I wrote the Fauci Act and introduced it back in early April. Fire Fauci.
Fire Fauci Act?
Cut 21.
Well, my Fire Fauci Act asked for a full investigation because we've suspected all along that he is criminally liable. Here's why. If you go back, you can go back to 2012, you can go back to 2014, where Anthony Fauci was using American tax dollars and sending it to the Wuhan lab to fund this research that was creating viruses. Why is there any need to create a virus that can spread rapidly through a population, make people sick and kill them? That's a bioweapon. So we need to be very clear about what was the intent of COVID-19 and these viruses that they experiment with, like some sort of Dr. Frankenstein experiments. These are bioweapons. There's no other reason to create a virus that makes people sick, spreads so quick, and kills people. There's no other intent, but it's a bioweapon.
Okay, so she thinks it's a bioweapon, but she doesn't believe in research? Let's go cut 22.
No, I don't buy it because I don't believe in evolution. I don't believe in that type of
going to have to punt on that
science. I don't believe in evolution. I believe in God. And there's these viruses were not making people sick until they created them and made them into weaponize these viruses to be able to attach to our cells and make us sick. This has caused so many people to die all over the world. This is a bioweapon.
That's attached to our cells. So what, created by man? This is
there is no evolution.
There is no evolution. And there's God. There's
so
only
we're
God.
as powerful, we man are as powerful as God.
Because we're creating bioweapons?
Apparently.
I don't believe in evolution. I believe in God.
I don't believe in God. I only believe in the Beatles.
For being a monumentous D-bag, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you are my nominee. Is she the winner?
Slow down.
Oh, come on.
And I had a little side note here. Saw this one on the interwebs. QAnon is just trailer park Scientology. Thought it'd be a good place to insert that thought.
With worse lawyers.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, she is certainly a D-bag, Dom. But, here on the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, we always like when we can lift someone up, when we can bring, a backbencher up from the small time and bring them up to the big leagues, Dom. And someone's made it in life when they're published at the Raw story.
Oh, yes.
So we got a local boy here from the great state of Wisconsin.
A local boy made it big.
That we want to feature because I think we kind of made this guy famous-er. He's sort of doing it for himself as well. Here's the Raw story headline. GOP legislator, that's from Wisconsin, compares children's museum to Nazis and sparks wave of harassment by anti-maskers. As the story reads, a Wisconsin legislator prompted a wave of online harassment after comparing a children's museum to the Nazi secret police. Great analogy. State Rep Shae Sortwell.
Hey, there he is.
Republican of Two Rivers, who complained on Facebook that the Central Wisconsin Children's Museum required visitors older than 5 years old to wear masks if they had not been vaccinated against the coronavirus. But face coverings are optional for those who can show proof of vaccination, according to Wisconsin Public Radio. Here's what your buddy Shae wrote, Tom. And we met him singing COVID Christmas carols at the Capitol.
Putting up his
and he
tree
asked
for
him,
the third time.
Why are you doing it?
He's doing it for his constituents.
That's what he said.
Putting up a Christmas tree. They hadn't been to work in 8 months, but they were putting up their third Christmas tree because they were not supposed to put them up.
I just got a letter from our fine counsel.
Oh,
on that.
excellent.
Fancy?
Yeah, and then you asked him what did he do otherwise for his constituents the entire time, and then he kept repeating the same phrase. Oh, I don't even remember what it was, but he was so filled with adrenaline and such a coward by this, gigantic man, Dom, coming at him and asking him, God forbid, what did you do for your constituents besides get them a tree? And he flipped out and had so much adrenaline he couldn't even talk anymore because he's a cowardly boy on the schoolyard, and you push that bully away.
You know who Sortwell. You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Our college roommate, Joe. Joe.
Really?
Mostly because he's puffy. I always remember Joe was always a little puffy.
Oh, come on, man. He's got his forehead looks more like you than Joe, man.
Joe always, and I love Joe just like you love Joe, but Joe always thought he was way better looking than Joe was. And he wanted to prove it mostly by meeting women and spreading the love around.
A lot of love to give.
Anyways, let's get back to Sortwell.
Shae Sortwell. Shae.
An unusual name, not the common spelling of Shae, but S-H-A-E.
A Wisconsin state legislator.
Here's what he wrote. The Gestapo wants to see your papers, please. Dom's buddy Sortwell wrote, sharing the museum's Facebook post explaining its policy to protect children and others who cannot be vaccinated. Sortwell's post, which was made on his verified Assemblyman account, the governmental account, Dom, was shared hundreds of times and generated hundreds of comments, many of which spread further misinformation about the pandemic and efforts to prevent its spread, and prompted strong criticism. Quick one, he doesn't represent any place near Stevens Point. To the best of my knowledge, that's where the museum is actually located, Dom. To the best of my knowledge, he's never been to the Children's Museum. I'm wondering what personal beef he has with Stevens Point or the Children's Museum in making a comment related to the Gestapo. You, Shae Sortwell, you're no longer a backbencher. We've raised you up. You've now appeared in the Raw story, and you've now been awarded the D-Bag of the Day. A very coveted award. It's a big deal. So anyways.
D-Bag of the Day.
Rudy, just an aside here, Sortwell was also among the Wisconsin lawmakers who signed a letter asking then Vice President Pence to refuse to certify Biden's election win the day before Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol, making the same demand.
Part of the Insurrectionist 15. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Hour 2 is next. Who tortures us? It's the devils. It can't be the devil. It's got to be Shae Sortwell. More devils when we come back.
I don't believe in evolution. I believe in God.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates, inviting all our patrons to join us for an exclusive live broadcast at one of Hawk's finer neighborhood bars, the Jade Monkey Cocktail Lounge, located at 217 Cottage Grove Road in Madison on Tuesday, June 15th. Seating is limited, so please go to patreon.com, search for the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever, and sign up to be a patron. Join us June 15th, 2 to 5 p.m. at the Jade Monkey in Madison for a live broadcast, then stick around for the political party open to the public 5 to 7 p.m. See you then. You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. A Senate investigation found a lot of intelligence breakdowns led to problems leading up to the Capitol riot in January. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the role of former President Donald Trump in this is not a big part of the focus.
The Republicans reportedly didn't want any mention of him at all. And to find out, I think we should find out if other members of Congress participated in this as well.
Minority Leader Mitch McConnell backed
Hello, Jim Santelle.
but
Ryan,
not
how are
the
you today?
formation of a commission.
Doing well. Happy to have you, man.
Good to be here. Sound is once again okay, I take it?
Yes.
The CEO of the Colonial
We want you to speak for Giuliani.
more than
Please tell us what is going on, Mike.
to get fuel flowing again. On Capitol Hill, Joseph Blount said it was a tough decision to deal with the cyber attackers, but he put the interest of the country first.
We quietly and quickly worked with the law enforcement in this matter from the start, which may have helped lead to the substantial recovery of funds announced by the DOJ this week.
The Justice Department seized a virtual Bitcoin wallet used to hide the proceeds. A man in Southern California, Marcus Anthony Ariz, is charged with murder in a road rage shooting that killed a 6-year-old boy on a local freeway last month. Police say they believe Ariz's girlfriend was driving, and he fired the shot that killed the boy while his mother was driving him to kindergarten. Pfizer says it's expanding testing of its coronavirus vaccine in children younger than 12. 7-year-old Russell Bright in New Orleans is being tested. He wants the shot.
I have been trying to try to do all this stuff so I can see my friends more.
Louisiana is one of the states. Pfizer is ready to enroll about 4,500 young volunteers at more than 90 sites in the U.S., Finland, Poland, and Spain. A former pharmacist in Wisconsin who intentionally ruined more than 500 doses of vaccine was sentenced to 3 years in prison. This is AP News.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now, my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
Get Dad an e-bike for Father's Day. Crazy Lenny has over 150 different e-bikes to choose from. The largest selection in the entire USA.
We have mountain e-bikes for $1,500, fat tire e-bikes with the throttle for $1,100, commuter e-bikes for $980.
Get Dad an e-bike gift certificate so Dad selects the bike he wants and the size he wants.
Gift certificates are discounted, so get a $300 certificate for Dad. You pay only $240.
Get Dad an e-bike gift certificate at Crazy Lenny's e-bikes.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates, inviting all our patrons to join us for an exclusive live broadcast at one of Hawk's finer neighborhood bars, the Jade Monkey Cocktail Lounge, located at 217 Cottage Grove Road in Madison on Tuesday, June 15th. Seating is limited, so please go to patreon.com, search for the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever, and sign up to be a patron. Join us June 15th, 2 to 5 p.m. at the Jade Monkey in Madison for a live broadcast, then stick around for the political party open to the public 5 to 7 p.m. See you then.
Hi, this is Gordy from Kopke's Greenhouse, inviting you to visit our flower farm. We are located 2 miles northeast of Oregon on Sand Hill Road in the beautiful town of Dunn. We offer an amazing line of flowering annuals and perennials, as well as a great selection of vegetables and herbs, including our own homegrown organics line. Check us out on the web at kopkesgreenhouse.com. That's KOPKES greenhouse.com.
When you're having computer problems, you need a company you trust to get things working again, quickly and affordably. Madison Computer Works has been doing that for business and residential customers for decades. Our computer care plans take away the hassle of being without your computer or needing to bring it in for repair. Starting at only $10 a month, our local and friendly techs provide remote help and can fix most problems in just minutes. Call 608-231-8000 and sign up today. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, June 8th. On Monday, the Wisconsin Department of Health Services reported 43% of Wisconsinites eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine have completed their vaccination series. That is more than 2.5 million Wisconsinites fully vaccinated. Roughly an additional 300,000 residents have received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Yesterday, the Wisconsin Department of Corrections announced that in-person prison visits may resume beginning July 6th. In-person visitations were suspended on March 13th of last year. A Department of Corrections official noted the policy may change if prisons experience an increase in COVID-19 cases. Forecasts of partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance for showers today and a possibility of thunder, light and variable winds with a high of 87 degrees. Partly cloudy skies expected to continue overnight with a low of 67 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we welcome back a fine guest and a friend of ours. He is former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. Jim, welcome back to the big show.
Good to be with you once again, and looking forward to next Tuesday when I'm with you in person right there in Madison.
Awesome. Party at the Jade Monkey. It's going to be a fine party indeed. Jim, if you don't mind, for the sake of sort of doing these things in order, can we start from the charges during impeachment number one? Donald Trump was accused of the quid pro quo with the Ukrainian Zelensky, and we've now got some new tapes out. And I didn't hear all 41 minutes, but I heard enough to know it certainly seemed like Rudy Giuliani was laying the groundwork for the quid pro quo, was basically trying to convince the Ukrainians to make an announcement of investigations of Joe Biden. This is precisely what Trump was accused of in the impeachment. Jim, why wasn't Trump convicted?
You got it just right. This is the prep work, if you will, right? This is the president's unofficial but plainly lawyer-type representative engaging with a foreign official, which again itself is violation of federal law, but laying the groundwork for what Donald Trump did 3 days later, which is pick up the phone and call Zelensky and say, but we need a favor from you, though. And that, of course, those famous words, of course, a predicate to you give me some dirt about Joe Biden and his son, and perhaps we can work with you in supporting you against the Russians and doing other things related to legitimate foreign affairs. Rudy Giuliani now on tape, we know 3 days before that, talking to one of Zelensky's deputies to set that up, unmistakably using some code words, but not a lot. Anybody reading that, anybody hearing it aloud, which we now do, understands that he is talking about the quid pro quo. The president was also talking about 3 days later, the groundwork being laid by Rudy, the deal not consummated, but attempted to be consummated by the president a few days later. More evidence. You certainly would like to think this would be further compelling indication of the president's complicity in this. But again, that's history that's regrettably already been written.
Jim, perhaps another indication that Rudy just gets the facts wrong, sort of mixed up in this mess, are Hillary's emails and the DNC server, and sort of the conspiracy theory that it wasn't the Russians that hacked, it was somehow the Ukrainians. And Rudy throws that up in the mix as well, does he not, Jim?
He does. And again, this is consistent with all of his public statements and private statements, plainly. Recall that infamous outdoor event in the East Coast when he was talking the same kinds of things. We throw up all of these outrageous things about Hugo Chavez and about elections and about Hillary Clinton. And we hope that somehow amidst all of that, either nobody is paying attention or that somehow you suggest to people that there really is a there when there is not. And again, the lack of clarity is one problem. The complete fabrication is the larger problem, right? None of this is real. None of this is true. And the fact that he inserts it then inside, but again, as I said before, is an inappropriate diplomatic engagement by a private citizen to a foreign official on behalf of the United States government, in fact, the president, plainly with the president's authorization, but nonetheless inappropriate in its own right. Again, a mess of a presentation, inarticulate, not clear, and I would argue once again, violative of the law.
Well, and you mentioned it, there's no dirt to be had. So, make something up or just say you're going to have an investigation. We just need something to, post and spread and put around the internet and blame Biden for something. Look, the Ukrainians are investigating him. Jim, thank you for that. I want to get to your old job, though. Be a little clear here, Jim. Department of Justice, that was kind of like your area, right?
It was. I worked for the Department of Justice for a little over 30 years, and 6.5 of those as United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Wisconsin.
So then you have some insight perhaps on the workings of that department. This E. Jean Carroll defamation suit now being picked up by Merrick Garland and defended by the Department of Justice. Is this, Jim, is it a procedural thing, or is this something that they are actually trying to protect the institution of the presidency, or are they defending Trump? Jim, what the hell is this all about?
Regrettably, it's probably all three of those to greater and lesser degrees, Dom. And for the second time in 2 weeks, I indicate to you that I think this is a wrong decision once again. What we've got going on, obviously, is whether or not the Department of Justice, the new Department of Justice, should now appeal this ruling previously entered by Lewis Kaplan, who's a district court judge, who said, you know what? When the president speaks about E. Jean Carroll and says that he did not, in fact, sexually assault her at Bergdorf Norman back in 1995 or 1996, says that on 3 different occasions, that is not within the scope of his employment as the president. And that's what the Department of Justice is now appealing, basically saying that when the president says these kinds of things, even matters related to his personal behaviors prior to his becoming president, that those things are covered by a representation of the government. I think it's just plain wrong. And I would offer to you just as a perspective that, this is once again this situation where you're trying to apply regular standards and principles for which there is legitimacy to a deeply abnormal presidency. We saw this again 2 weeks ago with respect to the Barr memorandum and Amy Berman Jackson's order, that again being pursued. Again, these fundamental standards, yes, indeed, it's a good thing to have these in place. There's a reason why government officials should be protected in this instance when in fact they have done things in the scope of their employment. How can you argue legitimately that the president's even statements about E. Jean Carroll, what he did or did not happen, whether it was defamation or not, that could be tried, but those things are within the scope of your employment as the chief executive. And like many others, I part company with the Department of Justice on this position. I did this many times, finding that people had in fact acted in the scope of their employment. The standard is postal carrier engages in a car accident while he or she is delivering the mail. Nobody would argue that that's not the scope of employment. And so you defend that person, the United States becomes a defendant. This, I think, is very difficult to justify. I wonder out loud if once again you have some people inside the Department of Justice applying this very standard, very appropriate principle under circumstances that do not support the ultimate decision. And not to say that the ends justify the means, they're getting there by an inappropriate application of a principle that again is denigrated by virtue of its application here. So again, objection and disagreement, respectful, but disagreement with what the Department of Justice is doing here.
Well, setting aside, justice for E. Jean Carroll, Jim, as you mentioned, this is the second time in 2 weeks that we've had things come out of this department that we question, and I trust your judgment as well. Do you think this is something that perhaps as an organization, Garland coming in there doesn't want to rock the boat too much and perhaps will, somehow down the line address these in what I would consider a more proper way? Or do you think that this is something more telling for what he's actually doing, that he's in charge and he wants this done?
Right. I think it's, again, it could be a combination of all of that. He plainly is new again to the department. Merrick Garland is not the Department of Justice generally. We know that he was there at highest levels in the past. So we can't completely look at him and say you're a complete neophyte when it comes to what happens on the 6th and 7th floor of the Department of Justice. That's an excuse that doesn't go very far. My sense is that perhaps he is deferring right now in his first months to those people, those institutional people, those civil servants who are saying, you know what? We've got to ensure that when actors engage in conduct that is in the scope of their employment, that we will in fact defend them. And that's the principle that's all important here. And again, I have to believe the Attorney General knew about this before they decided to pursue this appeal. So it certainly would have crossed his desk, even informally. And he has not, for whatever reason up to this point, at least on these two instances, said, you know what? Again, abnormal presidency, standard good practices, good protocols, good policies, but not applied here. Why? Because they don't apply here. And if we analyze the way that they should be applied, you'd come naturally to the opposite conclusion on yesterday's decision, and also the one of a week or so ago.
James Santelle, got to ask you, when do I get the Don McGahn testimony or the transcripts thereof? Haven't even heard a lot of public comment. What I missed, Jim?
Well, I don't think you missed anything yet, although again, I'm looking at my calendar. He testified on June 4th. They said that somewhere around a week after he is testifying again in camera, not for our public consumption, you would get those transcripts. So I add 4 to 7 and I come up with 11. I think my math is pretty good. For what it's worth, 782 days since the Mueller report was released, just to make sure the math is there. But should be coming out very soon. You would think this week you would get those transcripts. The report is that he stuck pretty closely to the statements he made to Bob Mueller in the course of the Mueller report, the Mueller investigation. So no surprises there, but maybe a couple of things around the edges that will also give credence to that. And the other important piece of this is, of course, it's one thing for Don McGahn to testify and then have to be committed to paper. It's another thing to hear his voice and to say, you know what, my president was doing things that were, he used as a more colorful word, but he's doing crazy things, and I can't do what he wants me to do. I cannot tell the world that he did not ask me to fire other officials. I cannot tell the world that he did not want to fire the special counsel and told Rod Rosenstein, or asked me to tell Rod Rosenstein to do that. I'm not going to say that. And so it underscores, probably in the larger setting, the difficulty that I suspect so many people, regardless of party, had inside the White House, who are hearing these amazing requests, inappropriate requests, illegal requests from the president. And what do? They're gnashing their teeth. They ultimately say, I just hope it goes away. Don McGahn is one of those people. That transcript, I suspect, when we read it out loud, as we probably should, will reflect that kind of angst, that very great difficulty that he had in doing his job as White House counsel.
Our fine guest, James Santelle. Can't wait to read the transcripts of the Don McGahn. But Jim, quickly, if he testified to what he testified to Mueller about, the obstruction of justice, that's damning testimony of the former president.
It is absolutely. And again, you won't be surprised to hear me say that among other, at least 6, 8, maybe 10 of those instances could have formed the basis for an obstruction of justice prosecution and should have been pursued by the United States Congress. Again, we're losing time on all of that. Likely that former President Trump gets a pass on all those obstructive events.
Come back, more James Santelle, more devil's advocates.
Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
I never said there was no collusion between the campaign.
I want to know, where is the server and what is the server saying?
The Devil's Advocates.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, our friend, live via phone. What about simply raising the age of weapons purchases to 21 years of age?
We're sending 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds over to Afghanistan, and they're dying. They ought to be able to vote. They ought to be able to have a beer, and they ought to be able to buy a gun to hunt with as well.
Are you suggesting we lower the drinking age?
No. Can't they do that? What is the age nowadays? It's 21, sir.
We drink when we toast. We toast when we drink.
Yikes.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
There are lots of people that haven't made up their mind on this race, and you think, how could that be? No, there are. There are a lot of people that could still make a decision all the way on election day down.
Undecided voters are the biggest idiots on the planet. Try giving short, simple answers.
Like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. Yosemites.
Because freedom. Charged, never convicted. Dom and Croat are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, sticking around for one more segment. Jim, appreciate you doing so. Some more angst I got over the DOJ, Jim. Reporting from the New York Times, I believe, Meadows, a former chief of staff for President Trump, after Barr left, reached out to the acting attorney general and asking him to, get involved in some conspiracy investigations that, do some election interference investigations. Jim, is it normal for a president's chief of staff to reach out to the acting DOJ chief to do an investigation? Is that normal channels? Is that how investigations get going?
My understanding is that the chief of staff would call to confirm that the attorney general is coming to a cabinet meeting that afternoon. But beyond that, there shouldn't be a whole lot of engagement. You're absolutely right. This again by Meadows when he was the chief of staff, reaching out and saying, you know what? Now that Bill Barr is gone, maybe the deputy now acting as the attorney general, maybe you'd like to pursue what Bill Barr did not. And again, inappropriate, yes, that's an understatement by about 10 degrees. Illegal, probably not. But again, completely contrary to what should happen. We now have a situation, interestingly, where again, the administration observing that is saying today about what we talked about previously, the E. Jean Carroll matter. We knew nothing about it. We were not advised of it. We learned about it when you learned about it. That I would offer is a good situation to be in, but underscores again the inappropriateness, the impropriety of what happened previously, and plainly an attempt politically by a White House to induce an investigation, a criminal investigation for political purposes. I don't know where to begin to understand what would prompt anyone, including someone who is not familiar with Department of Justice practices. Fundamentally, you've got to know that that is an inappropriate thing to do. You're inducing an investigation without any basis for that, and you're taking on usurping a decision that is within the attorney general's purview to make.
Jim, George Conway came out today and talked about some of these issues, and his quote, "You're running close to sedition here, trying to get government officials to act in support of a conspiracy theory to overturn the results of the election. I mean, there could be a criminal conspiracy involved here. That's not protected by free speech." Jim, we talked about this earlier. This seems to be just kind of a same continuation of this philosophy that Trump has had throughout his presidency, and the way he behaves and how he tries to turn things on its head. And at what point do you put all the pieces together and say, yes, when you're asking other governmental officials to engage in this process, let's call it, but you really want them to investigate conspiracy theories and attempts to overturn an election. When do you cross the sedition bridge?
You're coming awfully close to it, aren't you? Again, we've talked in the past. You have provided good instruction, both of you as professors of the law, to your listeners about what conspiracy is. It's an agreement between two people, an overt act happens, something you do in furtherance of it to make it closer to fruition. When you call up and you say, you know what, I'd like us to agree that you're going to go down this road, you're going to investigate this thing for which I really have no basis, but I'm going to ask you to do that. And oh, by the way, why don't you just convene, again, not a part of the reporting, but that overt act could be, let's get a grand jury to take a look at this, maybe issue some grand jury subpoenas, let's do some interviews, let's otherwise use the legitimate purposes of the Department of Justice, let's get some FBI agents involved to go down this road. That, again, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. Again, I would say that the sedition allegation is probably within that broad umbrella too, that you're doing something to undermine the very trappings of our government. Again, and people have gone to jail for much less than that in the past.
Our fine guest, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, for a few more minutes. Jim, I want to move on to impeachment 2.0. The impeachment of the former president was over the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol and his incitement thereof. And obviously that was not a conviction either, Jim, but the U.S. Senate today issued a bipartisan report, sort of sanitized, didn't really look for the why, but it did address some of the issues. Jim, first and foremost, what was your impression of the Senate report, the reporting you've seen of it so far? And above and beyond that, we know about the civil suits, the Capitol Police, the Eric Swalwell suit, but Jim, could we see criminal charges directed towards Republican lawmakers or possibly even the former president regarding the January 6th insurrection?
The answer to part two is yes, and that's in part the reason why we should be pursuing this. Today's report, significant. Again, note that people like Rob Portman coming forth and saying the commission of these two Senate committees was not to identify the causes, but rather the reasons why the response was inadequate. And again, is this an important day in American history? You bet, because it underscores once again what we did back in 9/11. Here once again is the 9/11 Commission report. What was one of the principal findings of it? That 9/11 happened, even though we had all these indications that this would happen. We got reports coming up, and today we're hearing that as early as December of last year, there was a 7-page memorandum, other indicia inside law enforcement indicating this would happen. We did not have the leadership. We did not have the structure. We were too divided in terms of our operation to bring this all together and say, you know what, this is real. That's what 9/11 was all about. And that's why that report is so important. That's why I would still advocate that the bipartisan commission is important to do to make those same findings. It also then, to your second portion of your question, Dom, Mike rather, goes to the issue of what happens next. When you do those investigations, when you talk to people, they will indicate what they knew, what they did not know, and that can ultimately be referred to the United States Department of Justice for prosecution, along with all of the other prosecutions, 550 that they're doing right now, for those people who actually did the assault on the Capitol on January 6th.
James Santelle, former U.S. attorney. I've heard the saying, curling up with a good book. I suspect you sleep with that Mueller report, sir. Way too intimate with that report, Jim.
I'll bring all my books with me next week, so we've got the library right there when we talk in person. Looking forward to it.
You're going to have to bring a U-Haul down to the Jade Monkey. Our good friend James Santelle will see you at the party 1 week from today, Jim. The rest of you better stick around. There's more Devil's Advocates coming back. Phone lines open for you as well. 844-967-2789. Take care, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jim.
Take care.
If I did a tenth of what she did, I would be in jail today.
Sedition! In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
Get that e-bike for Father's Day. Crazy Lenny has over 150 different e-bikes to choose from. The largest selection in the entire USA.
We have mountain e-bikes for $1,500, fat tire e-bikes with the throttle for $1,100, commuter e-bikes e-bikes for $9.80.
Get Dad an e-bike gift certificate so Dad selects the bike he wants and the size he wants.
Gift certificates are discounted, so get a $300 certificate for Dad. You pay only $240.
Get Dad an e-bike gift certificate at Crazy Liddy's e-bikes.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner.
And
Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmedicine.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow down 30 points. President Biden had a vaccination goal set for the 4th of July. But Dr. Anthony Fauci says that won't be the end of the story.
We want to reach 70% of the adult population by the 4th of July. I believe we can. I hope we will. And if we don't, we're going to continue to keep pushing.
CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky says the 7-day average of coronavirus cases is a little more than 13,000.
This represents yet another decrease of nearly 30% from the prior 7-day average. But most importantly, a 94% decrease from COVID-19 cases since January of this year. And the first time that the 7-day average of cases has been less than 15,000 since March 27th, 2020.
A former pharmacist in Wisconsin, Steve Brandenburg, was sentenced to 3 years in prison for ruining more than 500 doses of vaccine. I'm Ed Donahue.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, June 8th. In March, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources issued a drinking water advisory for the town of Campbell near La Crosse. More than 1,000 families are currently receiving bottled water from the DNR due to hundreds of private wells testing positive for PFAS chemicals. The DNR is working with the Department of Health Services in order to determine how long the state can provide bottled water for the residents of Campbell. The Wisconsin Badgers football team will open their 2026 season against Notre Dame at Lambeau Field, a rescheduling of the game that was supposed to kick off the 2020 season, but was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Badgers will open the 2021 season against the Fighting Irish at Soldier Field this fall. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Dedicated to all the pretty girls, pretty girls.
Women want them. Men want to be them. Tom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. This is not my request.
Didn't see this one on the rundown.
Want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, friend of ours. He'll be at the party next Tuesday. Apparently, you'll recognize him because he'll be driving up in the U-Haul full of his books.
He's got lots of books, many leather-bound books, and his study smells of rich mahogany.
I think he's got him in the bedroom.
He loves his books.
Surrounded by legal tombs, if you will.
Very smart guy, James Santelle.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
Always appreciate when Jim comes around. Dominic, you found an article, ProPublica. This should not be a shocker to anyone. Apparently, America's very wealthiest, they pay no taxes.
What?
None.
Come on.
Like literally no taxes.
Come on.
The secret IRS files trove of never-before-seen records reveal how the wealthiest avoid income tax. They just buy a couple of Republican senators, don't they?
It seems to be the way to do it.
ProPublica has obtained a vast cache of IRS information showing how billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett pay little in income tax compared to their massive wealth, sometimes even nothing. That's a sweet deal if you're a billionaire, Dom. What about a working stiff? Do I get that sweet deal? I read. In 2007, Jeff Bezos, then a multi-billionaire, now the world's richest man, did not pay a penny, not a single penny in federal income taxes. He achieved that feat again in 2011. In 2018, Tesla founder Elon Musk, the second richest person in the world, also paid no federal income taxes. Michael Bloomberg managed to do the same in recent years. Billionaire investor Carl Icahn did it twice. George Soros paid no federal income tax 3 years in a row. ProPublica has obtained a vast trove of Internal Revenue Service data on tax returns of thousands of the nation's wealthiest people, covering more than 15 years. The data provides an unprecedented look inside the financial lives of America's titans, including Buffett, Bill Gates, Rupert Murdoch, and Mark Zuckerberg. It shows not just their income and taxes, but also their investment, stock trades, gambling winnings, and even the results of audits. Oh, you mean audits eventually end at some point?
Don't
Never
tell
know
Donald
the way
that.
Taken together, it demolishes the cornerstone myth of the American tax system, that everyone pays their fair share and that richest Americans pay the most. The IRS records show that the wealthiest can perfectly legally pay income taxes that are only a tiny fraction of the hundreds of millions, if not billions, their fortunes grow each year. Many Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Me, sometimes, amassing little wealth and paying the federal government a percentage of their income that rises if they earn more. In recent years, the median American household earned about $70,000 annually and paid about 14% in federal taxes. The highest income tax rate, 37%, kicked in this year for couples earning above 628 grand. The confidential tax records obtained by ProPublica show that the ultra-rich effectively sidestep this system. America's billionaires avail themselves of tax avoidance strategies beyond the reach of ordinary people. Their wealth derives from the skyrocketing value of their assets like stock and property. Those gains are not defined by U.S. laws as taxable income unless and until the billionaires sell. To capture the financial reality of the richest Americans, ProPublica undertook an analysis that has never been done before. We ProPublica, compared how much in taxes the 25 richest Americans paid each year to how much Forbes estimated their wealth grew in the same time period. We're going to call this their true tax rate. The results are stark. According to Forbes, those 25 people saw their wealth rise a collective $401 billion from 2014 to 2018.
Ooh.
That's stunning. They paid a total of $13.6 billion, again, on $400 billion in income, $13.6 billion in federal income taxes in those 5 years, the IRS data show. That's a staggering sum, but it amounts to a true tax rate of only 3.4%. That's a sweet deal, Tom. It's a completely different picture for middle class Americans. For example, wage earners in their early 40s who have amassed a typical amount of wealth for people their age from 2014 to 18, such households saw their net worth expand by about $65,000 after taxes on average, mostly due to the rise in the value of their homes. But because the vast bulk of their earnings were salaries, their tax bills were almost as much, nearly 62 grand over the 5-year period. No one among the 25 wealthiest avoided as much tax as Buffett, the grandfatherly centra-billionaire. That's perhaps surprising, given his public stance as an advocate for higher taxes for the rich. According to Forbes, his riches grew $24.3 billion over those 5 years. The data shows Buffett reported paying $23.7 million in taxes on $24 billion in earnings. Wow.
Now, his wealth increased $24.3 billion, and he ended up paying $23.7 million in income taxes.
That works out to a true tax using this formula. ProPublica's a 0.1% or about 10 cents for every $100 he added to his wealth, Dom.
Rudy experts have long understood the broad outlines of how little the wealthy are taxed in the United States, and many lay people have long suspected the same thing, but few specifics about individuals ever emerge in public. Tax information is among the most zealously guarded secrets in the federal government. ProPublica has decided to reveal individual tax information of some of the wealthiest Americans because it is only by seeing specifics that the public can understand the realities of the country's tax system. Consider Bezos's 2007, one of the years he paid zero federal income tax. Amazon stock more than doubled. Bezos' fortune leapt $3.8 billion, according to Forbes, whose wealth estimates are widely cited. How did a person enjoying that sort of wealth explosion end up paying no income tax? ? In that year, Bezos, who filed his taxes jointly with his then wife, reported the paltry for him $46 million in income, largely from interest and dividend payments on outside investments. He was able to offset every penny. He was able to offset every penny he earned with losses from side investments and various deductions like interest expenses and debts, and the vague catch-all category of other expenses.
I got lots of other expenses, Dom.
In 2011, a year in which his wealth held roughly steady at $18 billion, Bezos filed a tax return reported he lost money. His income that year was more than offset by investment losses. What's more, because according to the tax law, he made so little, he even claimed and received a $4,000 tax credit for his children. Bezos, whose wealth at $18 billion received a $4,000 tax credit for his children. His tax avoidance is even more striking if you examine 06 to 18, a period for which ProPublica has complete data. Bezos' wealth increased by $127 billion, according to Forbes, but he reported a total of $6.5 billion in income. The $1.4 billion he paid in personal federal taxes is a massive number, yet it amounts to a 1.1% true tax on the rise of his fortune. Lots of examples in here, Soros included. They go through.
Is this, before we go on, is this a fair and accurate measure? You don't get taxed on the increase in your net worth per se, not unless you earn that income. So if I bought an investment, if I own a company and that company has gone up in value because we're selling more inventory, right? Well, I don't get taxed each and every year. I get taxed on whether or not the company is profitable in the current tax year. And I'm not here to defend the ultra wealthy.
Well,
but you can't take my net worth and say, well, your net worth doubled over 10 years and you only paid such and such.
Well, what do you think a wealth tax would do? The point is, you know, the majority of these taxes, they're not paying, you know, like we pay, right?
Oh, I get that.
Okay. So then, and I guess I would defend in this case, Rudy, if that's how the laws are written, right? They're not being accused of not paying their taxes or doing something, you know, hiding money overseas. You know, we have a lot of that going on, but that's not what we're talking about here. This is analysis, and they're using every law, as far as we can tell from the reporting, that is available to them. It is made for them. They're taking advantage of this.
But you know, well, Dom, and you've also had some good investments in life. Been a while. You and I both.
Rather be lucky than good, man.
But what I would say is I've built a company before and seen the value of that company grow through the course of time and years. And it wouldn't have been fair, quote unquote, to tax me each and every year, except on the profitability of that specific year. Now, when it's time to cash out, when it's time to sell that company, as I did, well, you generate cap gains, at least, you know, if you sell the company for more than you invested in it. Well, my understanding is Jeff Bezos borrowed like $250,000 from his parents. You know, not entirely a self-made man, and, you know, racked it up and became a billionaire at like 31 and a billionaire at like 35, you know, did quite well for himself. But unless we set some sort of parameter of taxation specifically to capture the increase of asset wealth, you're right, man. They're not breaking the tax laws. None of us are taxed as our net worths increase unless that's through specific income sources.
And given the fact that of the amount of taxes that we see reported as paying, don't you think it is high time that perhaps we go down that road?
Well, sure.
Sure,
But I'm just saying, but this information in a vacuum doesn't give the average consumer enough information. I get it, because most of us don't see our net worths balloon up with the growth in the stock market. I mean, we might see it on the fringes. We might have some retirement account or a 401k, but overall, most of our net worths come from real estate holdings, probably a house. Maybe you're building up your 401k.
Yeah, but as mentioned, offset by increases in taxes as well. I mean, so that listen, the point of the wealth tax, right? I think that's where I'm seeing this thing going, right? They have to contribute more than what that is a contribution than what they're doing based on the quote unquote income tax.
Well, because they never have to work. If your net worth is $18 billion, you can take a year or two off. You can have a sabbatical. You can just sit out the stock market. And your individual stock holdings or small investments may not move the $18 billion ship. But overall, if that value of that $18 billion continues to rise, like Jeff Bezos has seen, 100 billion plus in growth in like the last year, well, sure, then there should be a way to capture that increasing asset growth, even if it doesn't come from traditional income things like W-2 wage or even sale of stock.
Right. Well, but that's the point. It is so egregious. And until you see something like this, come on, Donald Trump paid what? $575 in income taxes?
$750, I thought.
$750.
Come on, let's not cut the man short.
All right. In income tax.
But there have been years where I paid no federal income taxes. I have shown a loss on the business, paper or otherwise. And I paid no taxes. And perhaps the value of my company went up, even though I might have expended capital to invest in the company to make it more valuable. Ultimately, I hired new people, spent away some of that profit. So, you got to be careful. It's not a catch-all looking at this percentage.
Well, come on, man.
But
Okay,
when
everybody over, $10 billion in wealth assets, whatever, there certainly is a limit. I mean, obviously, the whole point of a wealth tax is not to, tax the wealth of the middle class. So you got to be careful what you wish for, certainly. But you got to do
that
something
billionaire
to
tax could catch you and I as radio guys someday, Dom.
I look forward to that day.
When we make the bigger time. Would you pay your quote unquote fair share? I mean, it wouldn't be fair to expect Bill Gates or any of them to expend 15%, let's say, of their net worth each year in a wealth tax. But maybe something more than 0.1.
Well, right. It's not, and again, the 15% on we're talking about like the G7 talking about a flat tax for corporations, different animal than what we're talking about here. But yes, absolutely, there should be a mechanism, a way to capture some money from them because they're not contributing, not nearly to the degree that everybody else is. We are the Devil's Advocates. Comeback phones open 844-967-2789.
I pay hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes.
When it comes to tax reform, he better cut taxes for everybody, and I think that's what he'll do.
Yes, Quid Pro Quo.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
I'm not a big fan of righty-whitey talk radio, but if I'm going to tune in even for an hour a day, I really wish they'd have a live host. You know, they've still got a Rush Limbaugh show, and the guy's been dead for a couple months.
Playing like Best of Dead Rush.
Do you know how weird that is? I make you this promise, Dom, after I'm dead, you don't have to keep playing my sound bites. Although I'm hoping you go first.
The Devil's Advocates, weekdays from 2 to 5.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open for you. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, what's the old saying? The rich get richer and the poor do radio.
Is that what we're doing?
I think so.
In a statement to ProPublica, according to the Washington Post, Buffett said that his company, Berkshire Hathaway, pays a large amount of corporate income tax and that he has planned for more than 99% of his personal wealth to go to taxes and philanthropy. His quote, "I believe the money will be of more use to society if dispersed philanthropically than if it is used to slightly reduce an ever-increasing U.S. debt," Buffett wrote in a statement, "but that will be for Congress to determine through changes to U.S. tax policy," he added.
You know, right here in the great state of Wisconsin, we've got a manufacturing and agricultural tax credit, air quotes, a 0.4% tax rate for the, selected industry that's favored by Republicans. Got to create more manufacturing jobs. Tell us that all the time. But then when they incentivize foreign corporations, and you've all heard of them, Foxconn came to the state of Wisconsin, supposed to be the eighth wonder of the world, according to Trump and Scott Walker, the former Republican governor that made the contract on the back of the napkin. And we, the taxpayers, committed like $4.5 billion to incentivize this foreign corporation. But something I always knew was never going to make sense, Tom, was when you tax the profits of a corporation at 0.4%.
As a state income tax.
As a state income tax. Well, that's not sufficient. I don't care how profitable a corporation is, 0.04% or 0.4% of their profitability is not a sustaining tax rate. And it's not sustaining when it's Foxconn Corporation, meaning all the incentives we give them, we're never going to be paid back even if they were highly profitable because we don't collect taxes on manufacturers here, or not significantly. So when we see this ProPublica piece, Dom, the unsaid, or I guess we've said it now, something's got to change. The richest Americans can't garner all the benefit, be it a pandemic or any other circumstance, and then pay some minuscule percentage of their net wealth growth, maybe 0.1% in the case of Warren Buffett. Well, you know what, Warren? I think every American feels like they can do a better job than the government of spending their money.
Everyone's
That's the whole Tea Party thing, right?
Yeah.
Warren, you're 85 years old. I get it. You've been a very productive human being. But at this point, it's time to start spending down the net worth. And I'm sorry if you don't want to pay more taxes to the federal government. Guess what? Neither do I. But it's part of your obligation. Ask not what our country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. You, sir, could pay some taxes.
Ask not how much are taxes, how much taxes are due. Ask how you can avoid paying those for now.
Do you remember what Mitt Romney did? Mitt Romney set up a family trust.
Right.
And Mitt Romney effectively could give money to his family trust as a way to avoid taxation on the actual income he did generate. I don't understand that, man. I can't create a family trust and have an effective tax rate of under 10% on hundreds of millions of dollars per year.
You could do the exact same thing, but it
well,
would not
his
be,
was grandfather.
But yours, well, okay. So laws change is the point, right?
Well, he got in on the front end.
Isn't
had
that
the
always
best
the way?
accountants.
And you can always change the laws. That's the point of legislation. That's why we have a Congress. That's why we talk about tax policy.
Well, as I understand it, Tom, there's only so much we can do as a Congress, and that would have to pass through budgetary reconciliation bills. But I believe this very conversation we're having, Tom, could actually benefit the commons. I think if we did set some tax policies through Biden's new reconciled bills, we might actually be able to capture some of the enormous wealth, some small percentage, maybe 1%.
We're talking about just
2%.
trying to get, some of these, 25 super wealthy just to increase their payments just a bit. But what we're not talking about is the $700 billion to $1 trillion a year gone uncollected by our government.
Oh, it's more than that. My understanding, more than a trillion.
Okay, well, I've seen Yellen said $7 trillion over the course of 10 years. We've also seen reporting that says $1 trillion a year. Whatever. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of money sitting on the table. We can certainly fund the IRS. We posted some pieces on that. We've read some articles in that regard. But there's all sorts of ways to engage in this. But again, to remember, laws are made for those rich people. They're not made for you and me. Certainly not when you have the lawmakers that are paid enormous amounts of money for their campaigns by those very people who they're setting tax policy for. Think Ron Johnson and the pass-through corporations.
No, Ron told me when he reduced the pass-through tax rate from 36 to 21%, he said, I did it for us.
Did it for us.
Guys like you and I. In that I had a designated escort.
Yes.
Mine, not as profitable as the one he married into, though, Dom. Not able to cash mine out for multiple millions.
So again, the point being, nothing is set in stone ever. So I appreciate ProPublica is putting this out there, and I think a good discussion had income versus asset growth and cap gains, long term, short term, and dividend income. These are all different ways to collect taxes. But a wealth tax, I believe it was Elizabeth Warren has been big on that for a long time. And it makes sense. And also fund the IRS, go get some of that money sitting on the table, perhaps, some punishment for those who abuse the system. I'm talking about people who utilize the laws as they are. We should change some of those things. But those who are, incorporated in Malta or, the Maldives or something, and you're totally avoiding, think Paul Manafort, right? Those are the criminal types we certainly got to go after, and certainly we need to make it a little more burdensome for the super wealthy. I don't think either Buffett or Elon Musk are going to miss the money too much.
But they want all the money.
Well, I give it all away for just a little bit more.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Let's take at least one caller in this segment, 844-967-2789. You've been so selfish. No time for others. Mark from the Sac. Welcome back.
Hey,
what do you
Mark.
got, Mark?
Yeah, it'd be nice if these guys would, thanks for taking the call. It'd be nice if these guys would actually pay for the infrastructure that helps provide them for their wealth, because they certainly aren't. But then we all pay, that most of us, if we own a home, we are paying a wealth tax every year in the form of our property taxes. And that's primarily to fund the schools, and maybe this should be a different way of funding the schools rather than taking it, putting it all on the backs of the property taxpayers, maybe on the manufacturers who actually need the labor market that, that for the people that get an educated.
Oh, you can't expect the manufacturers to pay for education. They don't want an educated workforce. Then you got to pay them more, Mark.
Yeah, and for this clown that was talking about the whole Gestapo thing, I think
Shae Sortwell.
With these clowns, that he wants all kinds of papers when you go to register to vote, or when you go to vote, or if you have people monitoring the polls, glaring down at people, when they come in to vote, and tapping where their holster is under their shirt, intimidating people. That's Gestapo, not requiring kids people to wear masks when they go to a children's museum. So screw that guy.
Screw that guy.
Well said, Mark. Thanks, dude.
Shae Sortwell, Wisconsin Assembly Republican backbencher. Stick around. Matt McNeil on AM 950. The rest of you, more Devil's Advocates. The happier 4 o'clock happy hour starts right now.
Well, you haven't got the knack of being idly rich. You see, you should do like me. Just snooze and dream, Dream and snooze. The pleasures are unlimited.
I'm rich, guys! Excellent.
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. A Senate investigation found lots of problems with communications among agencies leading up to the Capitol riot. The report did not go into the cause of the riot in January. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says this report shows there is no need to set up a commission.
I'll continue to support these efforts over any that seek to politicize the process, and I would urge my colleagues to do the same.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer pointed out no mention of a possible cause.
If anything, the joint report by the Homeland Security and Rules Committees has strengthened the argument for an independent commission.
The FBI says more than 800 suspects were arrested. More than 32 tons of drugs were seized, all by setting up their own encrypted messaging service. Acting U.S. Attorney Randy Grossman says these people were stung.
Every single person who used Annam used it for a criminal purpose.
Grossman says the operation known as Trojan Shield dealt an unprecedented blow to organized crime around the world. In the Senate, West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin says he wasn't swayed by civil rights leaders who implored him to swing behind his party's sweeping voting rights bill. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says it's not needed.
There's no threat to the voting rights law. It's against the law to discriminate in voting on the basis of race already.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the measure is needed to combat a Republican assault on our democracy. City crews returned to a Minneapolis intersection where a memorial to George Floyd was assembled after his death last year and worked to reopen it to traffic by removing debris and makeshift barriers, only to have activists barricade the area again. A woman was sentenced to 3 years in prison for making false 911 calls that ultimately resulted in a 2019 drug raid by Houston police that killed both homeowners. Stocks were mixed, the Dow down 10 points. This is AP News.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Sponsored by Age of Learning.
You're an experienced roofer starting your day at dawn. It's hard work. Are you being paid what you're worth? Do you have a safe job site, healthcare, a pension? The roofers and waterproofers, Local 11 contractors pay a living wage so you can support your family and someday retire with dignity. Local 11 is looking for roofers in the Madison and Janesville area. Change your life. Join Local 11. Call Travis at 608-921-7207 or apply at rooferslocal11.org.
An industry that started in America should stay in America. At Ignite Glass and Gifts, we strive to offer tons of American-made products, most of which we create by hand in our glass blowing shop. You'll know your product will have thicker, longer-lasting glass, and it's artistically made right here at home. Madison's favorite for glass gifts and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Keep it American made at Ignite.
Get ready to get local. Saturdays at 11 a.m., Dane by Local at 92.7 FM Devil Radio bring you Let's Get Local, a new program featuring area businesses and nonprofits that make our community unique and special. So tune in Saturdays and go local, Madison.
Hey, it's Chris and Brian here from the On the Bus podcast. Be sure to check out new episodes on devilradio927.com.
We interview people who have stories to tell about living life on the road. All the odd food, internal struggles, and insane bathrooms you can handle.
They may be world-traveling gods, but they're all just humans when they're on the bus.
This week, we welcome pop-punk band Haley and the Crushers. Podcasts drop every other Tuesday on devilradio927.com.
No yelling on the bus!
Make some room on your home screen for the greatest radio app ever. Check out the Devil Radio app in the Apple and Google Play stores today and stream the greatest radio station ever wherever you go. The Devil Radio app, streaming 24/7 right from your smartphone.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, June 8th. Republicans in the Wisconsin legislature have proposed a bill that would delay new maps for city council and county board districts until next spring, keeping the state's current maps in place for an additional election cycle. Current law requires the redrawing of district lines at the city, county, state legislative, and congressional levels every 10 years. But authors of the bill say that it is not possible for city and county lines due to delays in the census. Opponents of the bill say the proposal violates the one-person, one-vote principle due to demographic changes over the past 10 years and leaves the state open for lawsuits. Forecasts of partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance for showers today and a possibility of thunder. Light and variable winds with a high of 87 degrees. Partly cloudy skies expected to continue overnight with a low of 67 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the Tuesday 4 o'clock happy hour. And I've got to make an announcement to you in the audience. Today's nominee and eventual winner of D-Bag of the Day, well, he's already posted a response. You know, Shae Sortwell, Wisconsin's own. He went big time today, Dom. He made the Raw story for his bad analogies comparing making kids wear masks at a children's museum in Stevens Point, which is not in his district, allegedly a place he's never visited. But Sortwell described that as the Gestapo.
Yes, the Central Wisconsin Children's Museum requires visitors older than 5 years old to wear masks if they had not yet been vaccinated against the coronaviruses, but face masks are optional for those who can show proof of vaccination. Sortwell's initial response: the Gestapo wants to see your papers, please. Apparently, some people didn't like that.
Well, here is his response via social media. We'll share it with you. I think it's his response to being awarded the D-Bag of the Day. Backbencher, Wisconsin Assembly Republican Shae Sortwell. I'm sorry, folks. We're going to share it with you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully y'all can hear me. So I just wanted to respond to some of the reaction that's been out there. If you hadn't heard, it's being all over the news right now that apparently I posted about what was happening in central Wisconsin, where the Central Wisconsin Children's Museum decided that they were going to put forth as a policy a requirement that you had to provide your vaccination card to them, your private medical information to them, or you would have to mask up as the alternative. That's their policy that they put out. So I shared their post and I said, the Gestapo wants to see your papers, please. That's it. That's what I said. And I absolutely stand by my statement. You know why? Because let's look at the actual little history lesson.
Because there are no other people in the room to tell them otherwise.
They started off by getting people's records. They collected records from people. And if you couldn't provide proper records, the proper documentation to prove that, in fact, you were not a filthy Jew, as they would put them out, because keep in mind, another part of the Nazi propaganda was that these people, the Jewish people, were disease spreaders. That was their propaganda, not made up here. That's what they did. And if you couldn't do it, then all of a sudden you had to put on something that declared to the world, declared to the German people anyways, that you were somehow subservient. You were somehow not as good. So I absolutely stand by my statement. And I think it's ridiculous that some people from the other side of the aisle in particular are spending their time trying to claim that this is somehow anti-Semitic, as if history can never repeat itself. As if somehow the idea that being able to see repeats of history is somehow anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Semitic to acknowledge the fact that abuses and tyranny can occur over and over again. And you know what? I'm not even bringing down any kind of government action on them here. I'm making a statement. And then other people saw the same thing and were very upset about them. All right? So that's what occurred. And now I did notice that the media has picked up this story a little bit. And I would point out that they're not really being honest, because I didn't actually compare the mask wearing. And that's what they say, the mask policy. No, what I actually compared is the requirement of turning over your private medical information. That's what I did. But you know, that is the definition of fake news.
You're being rude. You're fake news. You're fake news. Stop being rude. You're fake news.
And that is what they were doing. So I stand by my statement that you have a right to your medical privacy. No government, no business has a right to your medical information. And I stand by it. And yes, that's exactly what the Gestapo did, demanding papers from people if they wanted to travel freely through their society.
No one accused him of being anti-Semitic. Just stupid.
Wow.
This stupid person has just Shae Sortwell, backbench Wisconsin Republican Assembly member.
Now known
stupid
as
person.
Big Time.
Big Time Stupid. He has a little button on his desk. That was what you heard as a recording of Trump's voice saying, "You are fake news. You are fake news." I think it's the quote from when he's telling people that they were the enemy of the people and they were terrible reporters. I'm not completely sure on that. Either way, the guy has a button with the Trump quote on his desk because he's not only just an idiot, but he's a tool.
And our D-bag of the day, Shae Sortwell, making the national news, coming back with a resounding FU. He stands by his Gestapo statements.
More than once.
You don't have to.
Papers.
Rudy,
what was the name of the published post? I believe it was Papers, Please.
Papers, Please. His rebuttal, the one we just played here, said Papers, Please. Yes, correct. Just one example where you have to show your medical records and to get to school. You can't go to public school and many private schools if you don't have your proper vaccination.
Can't go to Marquette University unless you're fully vaccinated. That was announced.
Yep.
I just dropped off my immunization records for my daughter to go to the Salvation Army, that Christian place where she has to prove that she's got vaccinations from other things that aren't just the coronavirus.
So apparently there are many examples where we citizens show our medical records to, an organization. Otherwise we cannot attend.
And in fact, there is a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, 1905, and I'm trusting of all sources, Dan O'Donnell on this.
What?
Listening to Righty Whitey Talk Radio earlier today, Dan O'Donnell pointed out that effectively, this has already run up the flagpole before, and the state has an overriding purpose to compel vaccination, even if you don't want it. And in fact, the test case subject was a guy that had been harmed by a prior vaccination. And the U.S. Supreme Court said that's not a good enough reason. If the state says you must, you must. So effectively, we can compel vaccinations according to the U.S. Supreme Court, at least in the words of Righty Whitey Talker Dan O'Donnell. And he's a lawyer. Now, he feels like that case was wrongly decided and they'd like to revisit it, Dom. But there's even legal precedent. It's not Gestapo. It's public health. Do they not draw a distinction? Those that don't believe in evolution.
No, they do not draw a distinction. In fact, I would argue that perhaps people like Shae Sortwell and the other, far right QAnon lunatic conservatives think that the public health issue is just a ruse for you to get your,
chip,
Bill Gates chip. Yes. And to, subvert yourself to the whims and musings of the Central Wisconsin Children's Museum. I mean, really, this is the empire that Shae Sortwell is fighting against. Are you freaking kidding me, dude? The Central Wisconsin's Children's Museum.
Well, it all starts small, Dom.
Yeah.
Indoctrination of our nation's youth.
A repeat of history, right? This is another point that Shae Sortwell made today, that this is how it begins.
Well, the replication of history, as I see it, is the narcissism of this media whore, the puffy Shae Sortwell. He's a total media whore. He's looking for the bad press at this hour. I mean, he was part of
there is no bad press.
The Christmas tree contingent. They once, twice, thrice illegally put up Christmas trees that were not permitted. This law and order party. This is the same guy that wrote a letter to Mike Pence on January 5th. Shae Sortwell was a part of the insurrectionist 15 Wisconsin Republicans that said overturn the electoral outcome, or at least don't certify it for like 2 more weeks. Give us 2 more weeks to find some evidence of malfeasance. Well, he's looking for the bad attention. He's like the naughty kid in class, Tom. Shae Sortwell never went to the Children's Museum. No woman would ever have that man. No self-respecting woman. No offense if he's married, Mrs. Sortwell.
Well, but if you are, we don't know. Do you have kids? And if you do, you probably got them vaccinated, Shae.
I'm not sure that he would. You mean broadly, not for COVID, of course.
No, but broadly. I mean, yes, broadly. That's the question. And if you did so, sir, if you do have children, if they do go to school, are you going to share those medical records with the school? Because if you don't, good luck getting into school.
Our pal over at Deep State tweeting at us at Devil Radio. Room Raider would have a field day with Shortwell's bookshelf. I suppose he thinks the big dictionary gets points.
The bigger the book, the smarter you are.
No, he's just limited in his vocabulary, Deep State. That's how he looks up the big words, the multisyllabic words.
Yeah, not insurrection, attack.
I just prefer making up my own words as I feel like I need them.
Hey, if you do it enough, it becomes a word.
I'm just going to redefine it until we forget what we're talking about.
Shae Sortwell. He's big time.
Wow.
Big time.
Big time D-bag.
Big time media whore. Big time puffy backbencher. If you're going to be that sort of narcissist, you should really be better looking.
What explains you?
I'm beautiful on the inside. I bring about a glow. I'm like glowing from the inside out.
There's a lot of inside.
You, on the other hand, ugly goes to the bone. You and Shae. Come back with us. We're going to think of a nickname for that guy. Can't wait. Come back. More Devils. Phone lines open. 844-967-2789.
How hard can that be? Saying that Nazis are bad.
And Republicans done something remarkable.
Nazi party.
There's no better words than...
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Get that an e-bike for Father's Day. Crazy Lenny has over 150 different e-bikes to choose from. The largest selection in the entire USA.
We have mountain e-bikes for $1,500, fat tire e-bikes with the throttle for $1,100, commuter e-bikes for $980.
Get Dad an e-bike gift certificate so Dad selects the bike he wants and the size he wants.
Gift certificates are discounted, so get a $300 certificate for Dad. You pay only $240.
Get Dad an e-bike gift certificate at Crazy Lenny's e-bikes.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Boys and Girls Clubs of Dane County need your help. Our annual bike event is scheduled for July 17th. We need hundreds of individual riders and donors to encourage participation in pledges. We will be giving away 2 Crazy Lenny electric bikes, 1 e-bike for a participant and 1 for individual that pledges to support a rider. Come ride for the Boys and Girls Club or make a pledge at bgcdc.org.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
Quit surfing the dial. You already found the greatest radio station ever, Devil Radio, on 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It's the 420 break. Your calls are welcome at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the great state of Wisconsin, feeling flush. Did you see the new report? $4.4 billion in unexpected tax collections.
What?
How does that
happen?
Yes.
I mean, it's a great question.
Great news for the state of Wisconsin. Although, Republicans are already scheming to give it all back as a tax cut. Taxes must be too high, mostly for rich people. Because, as we learned earlier in the big show, they pay too much in taxes.
Yeah.
The job creators, the hardworking job creators. So a proposed tax cut coming down the pike from Republicans, I guarantee it. But here's the breaking news. Patrick Marley updated 21 minutes ago. Wisconsin officials learned Tuesday they would take in a game-changing sum over 3 years, $4.4 billion more than previously projected, but they may not be able to agree on what to do with it. Shocker, Dom. The windfall would allow Democratic Governor Tony Evers and Republican lawmakers to cut taxes, slash borrowing, greatly increase fundings for schools, boost spending on other programs, or enact a combination of all of the above. To do that, they would need to cut a deal, something that is often eluded to them.
Yeah.
It's been elusive, Dom.
Is that what it is?
The governor and legislative leaders have rarely talked during the 2 years that they have shared power. Here's a quote. The increase in general fund tax collections in 2021, particularly in the months of April and May, is unprecedented. Bob Lang, the director of the nonpartisan Legislative Fiscal Bureau, wrote in a memo published Tuesday. What would the former governor, Scotty Wanker, do right about now? He'd claim all the credit in the world, right? He solved a $4.4 billion budget deficit with some magic math. He'd claim all the credit. I suspect Republicans will as well. I read on. Evers called for investing more money in public schools and higher education, while Assembly Speaker Robin Voss of Rochester said he wanted nearly all the new money to go towards tax cuts. Oh, I didn't break my promise to the fine audience, Tom. There it was. In response to the news, Evers rescinded an order that caused the UW system and state agencies to cut spending by $300 million over the last year. Because of the way the state budget is set up, the system and agencies will need to spend that money by the end of June. Oh, come on down to the Jade Monkey a week from today. We'll help you spend that money. The governor said the extra stash showed the importance of funding his priorities, particularly schools, which are in danger of losing $1.5 billion in federal aid because of decisions last month by the, well, it should say Republican-controlled budget committee. Here's a quote. I'm proud of the work we've done to respond to COVID-19 and put our economy in the best position to recover, which is why there's no excuse for choosing not to fully invest in our kids and our schools. Broadband, venture capital, and support for Main Street businesses, among other critical priorities. That will ensure that we're bouncing back better than we were before this pandemic hit, Evers said in a statement. Dominic, Republicans who control the legislature, they were focused on cutting taxes rather than significantly increasing spending. If we recklessly spend this new money and grow taxpayer obligations in an unsustainable way, we risk future fiscal stability, a stability Republicans have spent a decade cultivating, said a statement from Senator Howard Markline of Spring Green, co-chair of the Budget Committee. If that's the case, if Republicans are so freaking good at this, why didn't we have these massive overcollections during the Walker administration? Why didn't he ever meet the jobs promises he made?
Why didn't he ever solve a $3.6 billion budget deficit?
Because it never existed. That was just a fabrication of the budgetary asks. So can we meet some of the budgetary asks now with this windfall? No. Republicans say no. Tax cuts. More tax cuts.
Rudy, Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu called for transformational tax relief, and Voss of Rochester said he wanted to reduce income taxes and property taxes for individuals and businesses. Senator Dale Coenga, a Brookfield Republican who sits on the Budget Committee, urged his colleagues to eliminate entire tax brackets and categories. The state is now expected to take in so much more money because wages and consumer spending have been much higher than anticipated. Higher incomes and more spending result in increased tax collections for the state. The state is expected to have $1.6 billion in its rainy day fund by the end of June. Billions of dollars more will sit in a separate account, but the exact amount will depend on spending decisions Evers and legislators make over the coming weeks. The legislature's Joint Finance Committee is set to wrap up its work on the state budget this month. The committee for weeks has been carving up Evers' spending plan, and the new revenue estimate will give it a chance to make even more dramatic changes to his proposals. Evers will have the last say in the budget this summer. He can rework what lawmakers give to him using his line item veto powers if Evers and Republicans can't reach a deal. If much of the new money the state will collect will sit in the state's coffers instead of being spent or returned to taxpayers. Dual state windfalls, Marley reports, in addition to the additional $4.4 billion the state is expected to collect between now and June of 2023. The state is receiving about $2.5 billion in federal aid through money recently approved by the American Rescue Plan. Evers has control of those federal funds, and Republican lawmakers have few easy ways to affect how he spends that money.
Well, they're suing with the taxpayer dollars, hiring lawyers with our money to sue so they can do something different with the money and lose the federal dollars.
The increase in the general fund tax collections in 2021, particularly in the months of April and May. I mean, we're just talking the last 2 months. People have been spending so much that the tax collections have increased to such a degree that they can now use the figures to project out to 2023 a $4.4 billion surplus. And great points, Rudy. If this was all the Republicans' grand master plan, why didn't it come to fruition when Scott Walker was in power?
Well, all the savings they gave back in tax cuts. So there's never going to be this big bonus because they gave it back as quick as they earned it.
Yeah.
Math on the radio, not our strong suit. But if you boys and girls need help spending the $4.4 billion surplus, how about high-speed internet across the state?
Oh, there's an idea.
I don't need a tax cut, although I would gladly accept it.
Hey, you want to get high, man?
I find it funny that the left talks about the fair share.
Yes. Quid Pro Quo.
Here's how you get them. If they bring a beer, you bring an old-fashioned. If they bring cheese curds, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way. That's Devil Radio.
For more than 65 years, Bachman Construction has worked to build a quality foundation in the Madison community. Our family's tradition has been to exceed our clients' expectations since 1954. Combining time-honored techniques with innovative technologies, Bachman Construction continues to offer our families 3 generations of experience for your next project. Quality is our foundation. Give Bachman Construction a call and let us know how we can create a better value for your space today. Saturday morning at 9 a.m., tune in for Ask the Builder and hear about projects that can be done to improve your space. Join me, Naomi Craw, and members of our team at Bachman Construction as we take calls from the community and share our family's 3 generations of experience.
Ask the Builder is Saturdays at 9 a.m.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6, don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
Cyber Takedown. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. On the heels of the Justice Department snaring a cyber currency ransom paid to Russian hackers, the FBI revealed Anon, a secure messaging app built by law enforcement agencies, which attracted criminal groups around the world. San Diego Special Agent in Charge, Suzanne Turner, says the site snared a staggering amount of information.
From seizing drugs, guns, and millions of dollars in multiple currencies, to addressing more than 150 threats to life.
Top figures in some 300 crime groups have been implicated, leading to the arrests of more than 800 people. ProPublica, in a check of tax records of the 25 richest people in the country, found that Jeff Bezos paid no income tax in 2007 and 2011. Tesla founder Elon Musk's income tax bill was zero in 2018, and George Soros went 3 straight years without paying. I'm Tim McGuire.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, June 8th. For the 2021-2022 school year, the Madison School District will offer online learning for up to 250 students grades 6 through 12 through the Madison Promise Academy. The new online academy is a part of the school district's attempt to do things differently in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, which upended so many of the traditional models of public education. Superintendent Carlton Jenkins said the district learned during the pandemic some students were very successful with virtual learning. On Monday, Marquette University announced it will require all students to be vaccinated against COVID-19 by August 1st in order to attend classes on campus this fall. Marquette is the 3rd and largest private university in the state to take this step. Interim UW System President Tommy Thompson continues to indicate such a requirement will not be implemented for UW schools. You're listening to Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. They refuse to do math on the radio.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocate Radio Show. Missing a few of these songs from way back when. Sort of OG stuff you're playing out here today, Fancy Brian. Drop it down, though, because it's a little distracting. Thank you. Please and thank you. So, Dominic, we got a big windfall. How do you think the Republicans will squander it?
Right. What are Republicans going to do to break stuff?
Here's what they'll do. First and foremost, they will fail to properly fund education, and they'll cost the state of Wisconsin about $1.5 billion in federal educational dollars because they don't meet the stipulations. Above and beyond that, they'll kick back. They'll refuse to accept, as they have through the Joint Finance Committee, the $1 billion in free Medicaid expansion money, sort of bonus money, a lottery ticket for $1 billion. And then, of course, the ongoing expansion money, like $600 million additional. So now we're up to like $3.1 billion. And then they'll offer tax cuts. They'll piss it all away in a matter of hours. They'll spend off $4.4 billion without actually benefiting the state of Wisconsin in any way, shape, or form.
Well, they'll spend the dollars that were collected by the state from the citizens of Wisconsin and not the money collected by the federal government from the citizens of Wisconsin.
Well, they collect both from me every year, Tom. They get the states and the federals. But
Yes. But the federal gives money back to the state, and they fail to take that. So,
well, not for the rest of the budget. 30% of our state budget propped up with federal dollars. They accept Medicaid dollars at 59% reimbursement, but won't accept it at 90% reimbursement with $1 billion kicker. I mean, the math is indefensible, Dom. And this new windfall under Governor Tony Evers, and Evers, if he's smart, this will be his re-election launch campaign. You want big surpluses, you got to have a Democrat in charge.
Happened under Evers' watch.
Maybe it was divided governance. Because you know what Republicans are going to say. This was our budget that Evers signed. So it was their budget. Collectively, it was Dems and Republicans in that Evers signed the budget.
Yes.
It was their budget.
Okay.
So they're all great shepherds of the money, Dom.
Does Evers veto this budget? If the Republicans play the kind of games that, I mean,
well, if they're trying to piss back
$4.4 billion is a lot of wiggle room for the Republicans to start playing even more games.
Certainly. I think they'll try to give back, quote unquote, in tax cuts, most or all of the money. Most of this will be offset by dollars they don't collect from the federal government, Republicans. And Tony Evers might be the first Wisconsin governor in 90 plus years to veto the entirety of the state budget. And I actually think politically it might be a shrewd thing. You know, last time around, I was critical of Evers for accepting the first pencil, the first draft, right? He signed Fitzgerald's budget. He signed Voss's budget. And he line itemed. He did some things for education.
But I would say this. As soon as the governor signs it, it becomes part of it's their budget too. I mean,
well, sure.
There's no question.
Now it is.
Whenever good, whatever bad. I mean, as soon as the governor, any governor, regardless of their political party, they sign it, it's theirs.
And he declared what victories he could.
Sure.
But he signed the Republican budget the last time around. Evers did. And this time, going into a reelective campaign where, you know, Republicans and Democrats are certainly divergent on what their priorities might be, because Republicans entirely want to give tax cuts, primarily to the wealthy, like they always do.
I mean, how short-sighted, though? I mean, how much? We're talking about April and May. Lang brought up specifically April, May of this year, 2 months ago and last month. Well, a lot of stimulus checks, right, went out and got cashed, right? I mean, none of the Republicans wanted anybody to have any stimulus checks. Do you think those have some influence? Of course, the money that has been given out by the federal government during the COVID support.
You mean
the pandemic?
Unsustainable spending of our government?
Yes, that
as Republicans would characterize it.
That exactly has been part of the catalyst to increase the funds to the coffers of the state of Wisconsin. Right, Republicans? Are you going to acknowledge that? Or are you just going to say that somehow this is all because of Fitzgerald's thinking and their budget?
Better candidates, better ideas.
Better ideas, baby.
844-967-2789. Going to the phones. And Dean on the road. Dean, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dean.
Yeah, well, I wish they'd put the money into the roads. You got good paying jobs. I just put between my springs of my truck and tires $4,000 into my truck. Just for that, I'd like to kind of keep it nice for a while. You know, bouncing through these potholes, or Scott holes, as everybody should say.
Well, at some point, Dean, they got to get fixed, right? I mean, presumably they got the money to do it now. Are they Tony holes now if they don't get it fixed?
We have good roads in this state.
I don't know. They just can't seem to get the bridges and the roads to meet quite right here.
Well, Dean, the infrastructure that I think that we most desperately need to invest in here in the state of Wisconsin is rural broadband. I mean, you've got hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of Wisconsinites that don't have the same access to the internet. And you can't compete in a global economy without high-speed access to the internet. So if we want to keep our kids home, if we don't want them going off to college in Minnesota and never coming back, Dean, we've got to invest in the internet and the infrastructure in the state of Wisconsin. They've been turning back that money since Scott Walker kicked back $26 million in federal dollars a decade ago. And they've never been backfilled, Dean. And we've got this big urban-rural divide in the state of Wisconsin. Well, they have reason to resent us. You can't compete if you don't have high-speed internet, and Republicans haven't made that investment in the infrastructure. But they gave them tax cuts, which, of course, would be nice. But they'd prefer to have competitive internet, I suspect.
Well, you can have the tax cut. You can also have the tax cut, the high-speed internet. Okay, divide it out a little bit. You can get tax cuts by putting it into education, so that because property taxes pays for your schools and everything. So if you put it into education and schools, you don't need as much property taxes. You get a tax cut. How come nobody can figure that out?
Well, Dean, because they're not actually trying to do good math. They're not actually fiscal stewards talking about the Republicans, or they wouldn't be kissing off the Medicaid money. We're one of like 12, 14 states in America.
It's embarrassing.
There's lots of Republican states that expanded the Medicaid. There's lots of Republican states that took 100% reimbursement rates because it was the right thing to do for their citizens. Republicans continually do things that aren't in the interest of their constituents. And, they basically tell them, but I gave you a tax cut. Well, tax cuts are great, but competitive internet, having a Wisconsin you can live in and still do business in when you live outside the metro area. I mean, it's damn expensive. Housing, everything's expensive in Madison, but at least you got the freaking internet here. You can't live in rural Wisconsin and hope to be competitive. We could not do this job with the internet intensive.
We couldn't do this with dial-up, man.
AOL? No,
No.
Probably not.
No, not at all. Not at all. 844-967-2789. Phones are open. I'm curious to see how the Republicans, do they take credit for this?
Oh, they already have.
Have you ever seen specific? I mean, I know
my understanding is LeMahieu and Voss were already putting out joint press releases. I haven't read it yet, but I know what it says.
Thanks to us.
Thanks to us.
Again, to the Republicans who would be fine with no federal stimulus money coming to us, right? Those Republicans.
Why do we need the federal stimulus? We do it the Wisconsin way, uniquely. We don't need to expand Medicaid or legalize marijuana or have infrastructure investment or high-speed internet. We got tax cuts. That's all you need. And the tools of Act 10. 844-967-2789. Laddie from Madison, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Laddie.
Hey, so I think broadband internet would be a terrible idea because then all the Republicans will get their Q drops at twice the speed.
Twice the speed and 100 times the speed.
100 times the speed. 100 Q drops every minute. These people will go on and on about the cannibal Democrats.
Laddie, they're apparently being informed of the Q's latest conspiracies with or without the high-speed internet. Because someone down at the...
I was mostly being facetious.
Mostly.
I mostly suspected that, Laddie. You got any other thoughts?
I don't know. I got to be honest. The last few years with Republicans ruling the state I haven't really liked it. I don't like living in a red state. I want to go back to being a blue state.
You know, I was okay when we were, Laddie, appreciate the call. I was okay when we were a relatively purple state. I didn't worry about guys like Dale Schultz or Tommy Thompson when they were governing our state.
Worry in what regard? Like insurrectionist bastards or just doing the will of the Republican platform?
I'm not sure what the question is. I'm sorry.
Well, you said you weren't worried about Dale Schultz. You weren't worried about some of the Tommy Thompson, some of these moderate kind of Republicans. But I would point, Dale Schultz still voted with Republicans, 95% of the time. So when you say you're not worried about them, what specifically are you talking about?
I was not worried that their governance was seeking to make asinine ideological decisions on behalf of the people of Wisconsin. Dale Schultz is not an ideologue. Never was, near as I can tell, perhaps before I knew the man, but I've known him a decade or more. And he would listen to his constituents. He would even listen to a guy like me when I snuck down to his office and came into his office under false pretense, claiming to be one of his constituents. Still gave me the 45 minutes. Still was a thoughtful man. And I never worried when he was the twice elected majority leader of the Republicans that he had malfeasance in his heart. And I didn't worry about Tommy Thompson. Hell, I voted once for Tommy Thompson because Tommy Thompson loved the state of Wisconsin. Tommy Thompson is doing a great job, although I think he should force the UW system to require vaccinations because I think it's the right thing to do. We shouldn't have to worry when we send the kids off to school in the fall about whether or not they're bringing home COVID or infecting each other because some kids are vaccinated and some kids, opted out. Well, if Marquette University, if a private college, which is effectively a business in the state of Wisconsin, can make this requirement, so can UW. And I'm talking to you, Tommy Thompson. You were a great leader for the state of Wisconsin, despite the fact you were a Republican, because you care about the state. And I would call upon you, sir, mandate vaccinations at the state schools. It's the right thing to do. But I didn't worry about Tommy Thompson, trying to jam through Act 10, turn back the federal dollars. I mean, Tommy Thompson, to the best of my memory, never turned back a federal dollar.
Ever.
Or a cupcake, but mostly federal dollars.
Or a drink.
Or a cold beer. Or a whiskey old-fashioned. 844-967-2789. Sneak a few more callers in here. Dick from Madison. Welcome, Dick. What do you got?
Hey, Dick.
Or some galley might get out in the gazebo outside the mansion. But, when we're talking about all this infrastructure thing, an older guy told me something really interesting about the roads. And he says, all these big farms, these huge dairy farms where, and that's not a good thing, and the family farms are gone. He goes, another reason Walker didn't care about the roads is we had some of the best roads, secondary roads, in the whole United States until that idiot became in power. And they didn't care about it because the trucks that are moving milk aren't on those roads anymore. They're big trucks going, to these super farms, and he thought the hell with it. And, and across the board, all the stuff he did, I mean, this guy is going to go down in record as all you got to do if he ever decides to try and run for something again is do what was set, a noun, a verb, and as Biden said, and Foxconn. And this guy will go away. He's a clown. He was a clown from the beginning, and keep painting him that way.
Well, have no fear, Dick. I will continue to Walker bash.
Yes.
I will characterize him for the wanker he was. We talked about the evolution question with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's not forget when Scott Walker was a wannabe presidential candidate going overseas, he punted on the question of evolution. Wanker,
the preacher's kid.
Come back. One last segment for your phone calls. 844-967-2789.
And Republicans done something remarkable.
No, sir. I didn't like it.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates, inviting all our patrons to join us for an exclusive live broadcast at one of Hawk's finer neighborhood bars, the Jade Monkey Cocktail Lounge, located at 217 Cottage Grove Road in Madison on Tuesday, June 15th. Seating is limited, so please go to patreon.com, search for the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever, and sign up to be a patron. Join us June 15th, 2 to 5 p.m. at the Jade Monkey in Madison for a live broadcast. Then stick around for the political party, open to the public, 5 to 7 p.m. See you then.
My name is Rocker, and this is my vodka. Rocker Vodka is distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Find Rocker Vodka at Woodman's, Festival Foods, Trixie's Liquor, Star Liquor, Steve's Liquor, Willie Street Co-op, Total Wine, Vic Pierce, Miller's Market, Cambridge Cooler. Find more at rockervodka.com. It's yummy. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
So, Darcy Haber, I hear you have solar panels on your office building. Are all real estate brokers tree huggers?
Crew, you should know that at Solidarity Realty, we provide outstanding real estate service while adhering to our core progressive values. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that.
So you really walk your talk, huh?
Yep, I even walk to work.
Come on, always?
Well, sometimes I bike, and if I have an appointment across town, I use my hybrid.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them online at solidarityrealty.com. There is an alternative.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
This is the radio station you were looking for. Devil Radio 92.7. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. It binds the world together.
Help me, Devil Radio. You're my only hope.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing. Hashtag Walker bashing.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now. Toll-free talk or text at 844-967-2789. Be like Dave from Oregon. Hey, Dave, welcome. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the price increases that we've been seeing and the talk of inflation that's been going on.
Sure.
And I don't think of it as inflation at all. What I think of it is as a price correction. For decades in this country, we've had corporations that have been relying on underpaying their workforce, and that workforce being subsidized by government funding, like Medicaid and other programs to go to help underpaid people, right? So what we're seeing now is not so much inflation, but a price correction. People are demanding more money now. They're getting more wages, and that's what we're seeing. And here's one other point I would like to make. I'm really tired of hearing all these people talk about, well, if wages go up, prices will go up. Yeah, that's an absolute fallacy. Now, Crew, you're a business owner, right? Right? You know that at the end of the day, you have a choice to make. If you're a profitable business, right, you have a choice to make. When you see price increases, right, you have a choice of either increasing prices to the consumer or reducing your profits, right? And that's the point that I think a lot of people miss. They don't understand that corporate America does have a choice. They have a choice to either reduce their profits or pass the money on to the consumers. And so the lie is that, hey, we're just going to pass this on to the consumers, when in actuality, they have the option to decrease their profits if they want to.
Dave, my qualm is this. In fact, the large, be it the big box stores like Walmart here in the state of Wisconsin, we subsidize Walmart superstores. There's 5 of them. We, the taxpayers, subsidize each Walmart superstore through money, safety net dollars we have to spend on Walmart employees, about $1.5 million per supercenter per year. And that's the taxpayer's expense. Above and beyond that, it drives the little small hometown mom and pops out of business because they can't cut their profit margins. If they're trying to pay their people $15 an hour, they can't cut everything down to the bone or sell at a loss for a period of time. But that's what Amazon will do. Amazon will drive every little small town business out of business because they can do it cheaper, they can sell it cheaper, and they can deliver it through the U.S. Postal Service. So
exactly right.
I do get the fact that there are inflationary fears, but we've been hearing this for decades, man. The price of everything has gone up. Since I first went to college, the price of college tuition's up thousands of %, but the minimum wage barely. You know what I mean? It's not like people are getting paid more, but their tuition went skyrocketing. So
exactly
Dave,
right.
The prices continue to go up whether or not we pay the employees more. Certainly there's been inflation in the last decade since we raised the federal minimum wage.
Exactly.
So,
and the other point is, when was the last time you actually saw prices go down because any kind of resources that these corporations are dependent upon have gone down? You know, we don't see anything go down. It always goes up.
Saw gas prices tank during the pandemic when no one was on the roads. We saw gas go down.
Yeah.
And now I hear, oh, Joe Biden, hyperinflation at the gas pumps.
Exactly.
I'm thinking I can't remember the last summer in June when I didn't pay $3 a gallon at the gas pump. They do this every year. When we take to the roads, it's summer, they raise the gas prices because that's how they make profit on us. So,
Yeah,
Dave,
exactly
I don't
right.
disagree with the single thing you've said, sir. I think you're a shrewd caller. Any other thoughts, sir?
Yeah, one more thing, and it has to do with Walmart. And this is another point. I read a book a few years ago specifically about Walmart, and they were talking about the idea of paying for health insurance for all of their employees. And somebody did a study, and what they found out was that Walmart sold so much product that they could literally just raise the price of each item that they sold by 1/2 cent. Just 1/2 cent, and be able to afford to pay the insurance for every employee in their company. That's how much they sell.
No, it's enormous. And the profitability of that corporation, the Walton family, they're set for multiple lifetimes.
And they pay no taxes.
Or very little.
Like you take issue with the, oh, sorry to cut you short, Dave.
Thanks
like
for
you
the call,
take
Dave.
issue with the fact that this enormously profitable corporation, passes on all the savings to the consumer and all the taxation to the consumer and all the social safety net need of their employees. Well, hell, we pay for that as well.
You privatize the profits, you socialize the expense in this case, not the loss. You socialize the expense because we subsidize. And then, Walmart's the easy example, but ultimately any employer who's paying employees who are, even though they're working full time, still not making enough money and are on some of these safety net programs, they're all part of this issue, right? They're all part of it. Now, Walmart being obviously one of the largest employers are an easy one to go to. But anybody who's working full time on social safety net systems, obviously we have a problem here, right? The wages aren't high enough. If you're working full time, you should not be in poverty. You should not be getting poverty wages. If you're working full time, you should be able to lift yourself out of poverty. And I don't see any of the Republicans or anybody talking about these inflationary concerns. What about all the money that's going to the owners and the shareholders and the CEOs, right? When's the last time you heard, well, we can't raise their salaries because it'll cause inflation? Nope, that's okay. We'll give them, millions of dollars in stock options. That costs the company. It comes out of somewhere. No one's complaining about that, but the frontline workers, you're $7, $10, $12 an hour. You give them a $2 or $3 raise. Oh, all hell's going to break loose. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe the increased money supply in the hands of those who are, spending every dollar of it check to check. Well, maybe that is what it's the trickle up. Look at May and April in the state of Wisconsin. We're projected out $4.4 billion in additional tax revenue to the state of Wisconsin. Why is that? Maybe it's got something to do with putting more money in the hands of people who spend it.
Sure, we don't just need to get more tax cuts to really rich people.
I'm pretty sure.
Thank you to our fine guest, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. Always love it when Jim comes around. Don't forget to be at the Jade Monkey. You can meet Jim Santelle and many other fine guests. Godlewski, Larson, lots of locals, Melissa Agard. Matt Rothschild, I can't remember them all.
Oh,
We'll
Zapecki.
recap. They're all going to be at the party at the Jade Monkey. You need to be at the party at the Jade Monkey.
John Nichols.
1 week from today. Now stick around. The political party, it continues. The Earl Ingram Show, the Native Roots Radio, the Tim Slacker Bustin' Pencils.
My party is going bat crazy.
What has happened to us? What has happened to us?
I don't believe in evolution. I believe in God.
Let's have trial by combat.
Freedom.